Our main character this time is Seol. The story begins with the game titled Ether World, a game released 10 years ago as a dating simulator targeting female players. But conversely, in the end, this game attracted an unusually high number of male players. The game feature allows players to choose from a variety of characters, starting from easy-to-play and highly effective characters to extremely difficult but ineffective characters. And among those characters, there was a trash character that was particularly hard to level up with extremely terrible features. However, there was a masochist who had mastered this character Seol for 10 long years. Right now, he was cracking his knuckles to warm up, and this was the person who chose to play that trash character. On a beautiful day with fresh and warm air, Seol was sipping a warm cup of tea, his eyes still glued to the computer screen. He was reading posts on the game's forum. There were many new posts here, and it seemed like something quite interesting was happening. As soon as he clicked on a post, a series of player comments appeared. The game encountered a stupid dragon. It appeared out of nowhere and blew away all my game data. WTF, how could the Dark Demon Dragon say my character died, and I can't log in anymore? What the hell happened? My character was suddenly deleted. Reading this Seol was quite confused. What kind of final boss is this in a dating simulation game? I thought the game would end if the two characters got together. Scrolling down, he found another post that was getting a lot of attention. Everyone, this boss cannot be defeated. This half-assed Dark Demon Dragon has 99% magic resistance. No cooldown always troubles me with its magic absorption skill, and also shoots some kind of magic. How do I kill it? This must be a game bug. Seol suddenly realized this was a post from a famous whale. Curiously, he put down his teacup and exclaimed, "The final boss is so interesting." Now he rested his chin on his hand, looked at other players' posts on the forum, and analyzed. Strange, isn't it? A monster immune to magic in a world full of magic. How absurd. Is it really a game bug? People are complaining their characters suddenly vanished without a trace. At the same time, a notification appeared on the screen. Dark Demon Dragon, Dark Knight 13th Molf has appeared. Curious Seol clicked and reread the game's storyline. In the Ether world, there is a cult called the Dark Mages. Their purpose is to help another world called the Persona Gate become the ruler of the world. When they achieve their goal, the Dark Demon Dragon will appear, and 90% of the continent will be occupied by the Persona Gate. Reading this Seol was astonished mouth agape and exclaimed, "I only play PvP and don't pay attention to the game's storyline, but this time it's too chaotic." He hesitated a bit, pondered, am I not trying to avoid confronting it, or should I give it a try? Thinking led to action. He started moving the mouse to the notification bar status. Do you want to fight the Dark Demon Dragon? Please choose yes or no. Without further thought, he chose yes. I will showcase the skills I have honed over the past 10 years, Seol said confidently. In short, about the character Seol, he is the only character who cannot use magic. Although everyone in the game can use magic. For that very reason, even experienced players wouldn't bother choosing a trash character like him. To put it bluntly, this character is even weaker than a side character. But of course, he can also use a little magic and only one magic spell at that. Back to the game. At this moment, the Dark Demon Dragon was accumulating a huge fireball in its mouth. Immediately after, it opened its mouth wide and spat out the fireball. That power rushed towards Seol with extraordinary speed. In this critical situation, Seol remained quite calm, then smirked disdainfully. He immediately used his super-level blink skill to rush forward, slash at the dragon's neck, and continued to blink repeatedly. Seol's blink spell allows him to quickly teleport to another location, within a range of 3 to 10 meters. However, the blink destination is random, so if the distance isn't controlled well, he would die instantly due to the extreme speed and impact force. Moreover, The cooldown time and mana cost are quite ridiculous, plus a 2-second immobility penalty after using this skill. Therefore, anyone can learn it, but no one bothers to use it. However, Beak Yuseo was on a different level. He used Blink proficiently and could also control the direction and distance of the teleportation. More miraculously, he knew how to resist the penalty of this skill without consuming any mana, as the character Beak Yuseo had no mana stat to begin with. Unlike other spells, Blink is essentially just a movement skill. But Beak Yuseo became obsessed with this character because everything depended on skill level. For the past 10 years, he only played one character that didn't use magic in combat. At this point, Beak Yuseo rushed forward and slashed a long gash across the dark demon dragon's face. Not only that, he was also powerful, decisively cutting the monster in half. Truly not an ordinary fellow. Immediately after, he stood proudly like a descended god. A notification appeared: "You have defeated the final boss, Dark Knight 13th Molf." In reality, Beak Yuseo couldn't help but be surprised, exclaiming, "WTF? What, I actually killed the final boss, the Dark Demon Dragon? I know I equipped rare artifacts from head to toe, but this is still a trash character. It's miraculous, but anyway, it's truly amazing. I have to immediately show off to the online community that I just killed the Dark Demon Dragon." Before he could even post at this moment, countless identical red notifications appeared on the computer. "Because you reached the bugged ending, 90% of the ether world has been destroyed. However, you have come very close to the true ending." Looking at these notifications, Beak Yuseol's jaw dropped in astonishment, exclaiming, "Damn it, what is this?" Before he could compose himself, another notification appeared: "Please proceed to the true ending." At this moment, he was extremely panicked, shouting, "What is this?" And then, our main character also mysteriously disappeared right in his own room. When he just opened his eyes, what greeted him was a completely unfamiliar place. Beak Yuseo was now lying flat on the ground. He struggled to sit up, his head quite dizzy. Confused, he put his hand to his head and sighed. What just happened? His body suddenly trembled violently. He looked around and exclaimed, "Where am I?" Suddenly he was attracted by some light. Immediately after, he realized it was a mirror. He approached it and leaned close to the mirror. What made him unable to believe his eyes at this moment was his current appearance, a very familiar face that had been with him for over 10 years. It was Beak Yuseo. But before he could understand what was happening, a notification suddenly appeared in front of him. Episode 1, Escape the Pursuit. Beak Yuseo suddenly realized, "Isn't this Beak Yuseo's opening mission? No way am I dreaming." At this moment, he reached into his pants pocket and felt something. What made him freeze for a few seconds was that the item pulled out in front of him was a Stella Academy admission certificate. By now, although he didn't want to admit it, Beak Yuseo could guess where he was. It's definitely the ether world, so from now on will I be Beak Yuseo. Thinking of this, he covered his face in extreme distress. But I need to think more logically. That voice told me to go to the true ending. But with my knowledge, this game doesn't have a true ending. It has countless possible endings. At this moment, his eyes suddenly widened in alarm. Wait a minute. Is it possible that no one has been able to unlock the true ending in the past 10 years? Damn it, but I don't have time to think anymore. If I remember correctly, as soon as Beak Yuseo wakes up, the dark mages will chase him and rush straight into the house. Thinking this, he quickly rushed to the window and peeked out. In front of him was a group of people dressed in identical black clothes. Under the snow, they were frantically searching for him, shouting, "Damn it, where did that brat run off to?" Seeing this scene, Beak Yuseo was scared out of his wits and hid behind the door. He peeked out and thought to himself, "This is dangerous. They're already here." Outside at this moment, a man with stark white eyes spotted something. He pointed to the distance up high and shouted, "Hey you guys, there's a house over there. Let's go search it quickly." As he finished speaking, the whole group responded in unison, "Yes, sir." Realizing the important issue at hand needed to be dealt with immediately, he himself was worried, not knowing what to do now. He recalled it seemed there was a time limit for him to avoid them, but being alone he couldn't fight them off. While he was fumbling, unsure what to do, the system suddenly displayed. You can use Blink. Beak Useol was bewildered. Huh, I can use Blink. Born with a body suffering from mana leak syndrome, Beak Useol, a person who couldn't accumulate mana, could only pin his hopes on one thing: the magic he had spent his entire life practicing. Returning to the present, outside snow was falling incessantly, blanketing the entire forest. In this old, dilapidated house, Baek Yuson was still constantly thinking about the system's hint. At this moment, he was extremely confused. How can this damn system tell me to use Blink? I'm not sitting in front of a computer screen playing a game with a mouse, so how can I blink? Outside, the members of the dark cult were running like mad towards the house. The sound of footsteps getting closer and closer made Baek Yuson even more panicked. Damn it, they're here. I have to act. There's no time left. Damn it all, I'll risk it all with you guys this one time. On the other side, as soon as they arrived, they noticed something. Their eyes filled with rage. One of them shouted, "Boss, I found that bastard. Chase after him, capture him alive for me." They just like that madly chased after him from behind, shouting with open mouths, "Stop! Don't let him escape! Get him!" And Beak Useol was running for his dear life in front. This was also the first challenge of the tutorial use Blink to lose the pursuers. While running, he thought, they're wearing magic shoes, so they run faster than me. So the only way for me to escape is to use Blink. Calm down, I've used it countless times. Therefore, I must know how to aim it correctly. At this moment, they were right behind him, shouting, "Hey, you brat, you won't stop, huh?" Glancing back, he suddenly realized, damn it, they've caught up. But the truth is, Blink has a weakness. If the user doesn't control the distance well, they will crash into other objects and die instantly. However, if it were me, things would be different, Beak Useol thought to himself while running. At the same time, the leader of the Dark Mages had caught up right behind him. He swung his sword and roared, "Let me send you to hell, die you dog." In that moment of life and death hanging by a thread, Beak Useol used his Blink skill to escape. He suddenly thought joyfully, great, it worked, leaving the group of dark mages gaping in astonishment. Hey, what was that? How could that brat use Blink? Is he a mage too? Seeing his foolish comrades lose their composure, the leader turned back to reassure them. Don't lose heart. Blink has a weakness: the user will be paralyzed for about 2 seconds. This is our chance to act. Saying this, he turned to look in Beak Useol's direction, but was so shocked he couldn't believe his eyes. Wait, how is that kid still moving? Over here, Beak Useol was still running desperately. While running, he encouraged himself, "Careful, I have to be more careful. Come on. I have to use the uneven terrain here to escape." If any player doesn't learn how to use Blink at this point, there's only one way out: death. In fact, up to 99% of players who choose Baek Yuson cannot complete the tutorial. For the remaining 1%, although they passed the tutorial, they couldn't grasp how to control blink distance and chain blinks. Thinking of this, he frantically used Blink, then blinked again, moving from one position to another. This made the Dark Cult members extremely impressed. Huh, he dares to use Blink on such terrain. Is this kid crazy? Then the leader turned to his comrades and said, "Whoever can use magic, go to the front. We will attack him from a distance." As he finished speaking, 3 volunteers stood up, their faces filled with murderous intent. Noticing they were no longer following behind, Beak Useol quickly glanced back. Another worry appeared in his mind. Oh no, are they planning to use magic? And the second part of the tutorial is to use Blink to avoid magic arrows. Damn it, when playing the game, I can see what's behind me through the screen, so it's not hard to dodge them. Suddenly, the system displayed another notification. Mana Leak Syndrome skill has been activated. Mana Leak Syndrome disables the Sixth Sense skill and accelerates perception. As soon as he received the notification, Bayek Yuseol suddenly felt sword auras approaching him, even though he didn't need to look back. And just like that, he could easily dodge these sword auras. At the same time, a huge dark aura rushed towards him. Baek Yuseol suddenly realized, this is the time to use the final blink skill. He luckily escaped this fatal attack. A deafening explosion rang out, boom, just like a meteorite falling to Earth. Its pressure was extremely strong, making Baek Yuseol unable to stand firm anymore, so he sat down and put his hands out to support himself. At this moment, the smoke and dust from the explosion gradually dissipated, but its remnants left a huge crater. Only then did Baek Yuseol regain his composure and think, damn it, I almost kicked the bucket. But now was not the time to rest, and so he ran off headlong again. Suddenly, his eyes filled with immense fear. In front of him was a bottomless abyss. If he slipped and fell, he'd definitely be meeting his ancestors. And this was also the third challenge of the tutorial use blink, to cross the abyss. He suddenly thought, perhaps the only way to get to the other side is to accurately gauge the blink distance. After that, I'll encounter a few mages passing by and escape. That would also be the end of the tutorial. But to pass this part, I have to master the blink spell, which activates in 0.1 seconds. Failing even once means death. There are about 2 floating rocks here. And damn it, with only 0.1 seconds, it's easier said than done. I really don't know which bastard wrote the script for this tutorial. It's so damn devious. However, this isn't impossible. The problem lies in thinking of this. Suddenly, the voices of the dark cult members shouted, "There it is!" right in front. At the same time, their group had caught up. Baek Yuseol was startled and looked back, thinking, the pursuers are closer than I thought. The distance between me and them is probably about 100 meters, and the cooldown for blink is 3 seconds. So I don't have enough time to get to the other side. So I only have one choice left: kill them all. Then Baek Yuseol sat down, hiding behind a tree trunk to plan his fight. He suddenly thought, this is crazy. Why did I even think I could manage after just finishing a fight? If this were a game, the system wouldn't allow these pursuers to appear continuously. But this is reality. There's no rule forcing me to blindly follow the game system. Killing one of them isn't worth my concern. The reason isn't because these people are my parents' enemies like in the game's storyline. Finally, they arrived. Baek Yuseol gripped his sword tightly, ready to defend. His face showed determination. Come on, you guys come here, I can take you all on. And just a few seconds later, they had caught up to his position. The leader, still looking quite resentful, his face flushed red, roared, "It's him! It's this damn brat! Catch this kid for me!" As he finished speaking, the whole group shouted, "Yes, sir!" and then menacingly rushed forward, each one looking quite furious. On this side, Baek Yuseol remained calm, not flinching at all. Seeing this kid's composure was quite something. One of the dark mages sneered, "You dare fight us alone? How foolish! You're done for, you brat." But Baek Yuseol remained highly focused, observing to make an accurate judgment. He suddenly realized the current distance to the target was about 8.7 meters, immediately after he unleashed his blink skill, rushing towards the man in black. The man in black probably didn't even understand what was happening before he was about to die. The leader standing beside him stared wide-eyed in astonishment. But Baek Yuseol's face now showed unshakable determination. His speed was too fast, too dangerous, causing the man in black to spurt a large mouthful of blood, spraying directly onto Baek Yuseol. Seeing fresh blood trickling down his fingertips, but at this moment he felt no guilt at all. If they don't die, then I will. I have to kill them all to survive. Thinking of this, he slashed him hard, then furiously kicked him again to vent his anger. It looked gentle, but that guy was sent flying back towards the other dark mages. This made them even more furious. On this side, after taking down one Baek, Yuseol immediately fled. Perhaps because his blink needed time to cool down, he couldn't risk his life at this moment. The dark mages also suddenly realized he was running away. becoming even more furious, shouting like mad, "Damn it, he's running! At all costs, don't let him escape." Beak Useol ran while thinking, "I just took down one? But next time it won't be this easy. What should I do? Huh. Damn it, why is it so quiet behind me? Aren't they chasing me anymore?" Just as he thought this, they were already standing menacingly in front of him. He didn't know. Since when? Now there was no time for him to run. He suddenly thought, aren't they going to use magic again? If only I could dodge these bastards. On the other side, the leader of the Dark Mages opened his mouth to command his underlings, "Do it." As soon as the words were out, a bizarre magic spell appeared immediately after, heading straight for Beak Useol's position. Only a huge streak of fire was seen rushing towards him. Baek Yuson was extremely tense at this moment. Not just one streak, but many fire arrows were rushing straight towards him. In this situation, he didn't know how to escape, only silently cursing in his heart. "Damn it, this cursed spell." But then he exclaimed, "Ah, that's right, I have a way." In front of him now, a tree branch emerged from a crack in a rock. In this critical situation, he used his blink skill and rushed towards that branch. And then, a large explosion occurred immediately after. Boom! The explosion created a large crater with dust flying everywhere. On this side, one of the Dark Mages was quite pleased, smirking. "Serves that worthless brat right." But his joy didn't last long. He suddenly realized there was no corpse in the crater in front of him. Surprised, he muttered, "Where did it go?" While he was still confused, Baek Yuson had not only escaped their magic but also used his blink skill to rush towards their leader. Only when he suddenly realized it, Beak Yusil was right in front of his face. The two just stared at each other eye to eye. The ultimate blink technique requires equal momentum before and after use. Without any further hesitation, he blinked again, rushing forward and slashing him hard. At this moment, only the sound of terrified screams echoed far into the distance. Witnessing this scene, the entire group of Dark Mages was utterly shocked. "Damn it, what's happening?" Not stopping there, Beak Useol plunged his sword deeper, piercing through this man, causing him to vomit blood and die on the spot. Even now, they still didn't understand where this kid got such powerful magic. Why did he become so brutal? After dealing with two of them, Baek Yuson was exhausted, his whole body covered in blood. He thought to himself, now that two of them are down, I have to hurry before they recover. The scar-faced man spoke up. "This weirdo, his reaction speed is too bizarre for a mage. Who the hell are you?" Hearing this, Beak Useol thought to himself, my reaction speed must be superior to all other players. But that's only in the game. Here, I can't dodge their attacks forever, especially at this distance. I have to quickly deal with all of them. Thinking this, he recklessly charged forward to attack. The scar-faced man who had been observing exclaimed, "I've figured out your movement pattern. This kid can only use blink and his dagger. I just need to defend my face and neck and he won't be able to touch me." He held his sword tightly in defense with a provocative attitude. "Come on, come here." Then he shouted loudly, "Ice Tide!" On this side, Beak Useol was still showcasing his amazing blink skills. At the same time, the scar-faced man unleashed a powerful surge of energy towards him. He was quite confident in his strategy, thinking to himself, "Haha, I'm about to get you. Now let's see how you writhe in pain." But his smugness didn't last long. He was utterly shocked. Beak Useol was not only unharmed, but also rushed towards his accomplice and beheaded him instantly. Witnessing this scene, the scar-faced man's hair stood on end, and he trembled as he exclaimed, "Damn it! Before you only knew how to hide like a coward, no different from a mouse, and now you dare to fight back." Beak Useol, covered in fresh blood, coldly replied, "Yes, but that was the me of before. Anyway, I have to thank you all for helping me become stronger day by day." Hearing this, the scar-faced man angrily replied, "You damn dog, that's only because we went easy on you. Surrender your life." As he finished speaking, Baek Useol's powerful footsteps approached. His face was now filled with murderous intent, looking extremely fierce. Then he quickly threw his spear towards him. Seeing the approaching spear, the scar-faced man speculated inwardly, "Blink targets an undefended spot. He must be planning to throw the spear to make me block, then attack from behind, huh? Dream on, darling, don't even think about it." Thinking this, the spear was right in front of his face. This guy just gently swung his sword and cut that spear in half. He grinned smugly, thinking, "Now I just need to turn around and give him one hit and it's over." But it seemed his judgment was wrong. He was suddenly stunned, weakly exclaiming, "Huh?" Then he gritted his teeth, his face contorted in incomprehensible pain. At this moment, Beak Useol didn't attack from behind as he had guessed, but attacked directly from the front. He used all his strength to pierce through his heart. In astonishment, the scar-faced man still couldn't accept it, weakly roaring, "Damn, he planned to attack from the front all along." So Episode 1, Escape the Pursuit, is complete. After killing all of them, the system displayed a notification. You have gained additional experience and received a gift from Project Constellatio for developing a unique story. As for Beak Useol, he looked quite tired now. Slumped down, his breathing becoming rapid and gasping. Gasp. He looked down at his blood-soaked hands, then glanced around. Like many other transmigration characters, at first, they only considered it a dream. But no, everything was real. This was not a dream. Beak Useol recalled the life-or-death struggle that had just taken place here. That was the first blink in this world. Also, the first battle. And moreover, this was the first time he had killed someone. The truth is, I killed people to survive. A moment later, Bayek Useol slowly stood up. He brushed the dirt off his clothes, stood looking at the road ahead, and told himself, "Anyway, I've transmigrated here. For now, I have to leave this place quickly." Suddenly a thought appeared in his mind. He turned to look back at the group of people he had just defeated. At this moment he was still quite hesitant, his eyes carrying a hint of melancholy sadness. But then he bent down, fumbled through their pants pockets and coat pockets, checked and pondered. Although this might be a bit despicable, I have to think realistically. Currently, I don't even have a penny to my name. After fumbling around for a while, he finally found a bag of glittering gold coins. He rejoiced inwardly. This must be about 200 million. Is it more? There's a silver lining in every cloud. Then his joy didn't last long before he started worrying about another problem. He turned to look at the road ahead, dejected. In front was a deep, precipitous cliff. If he slipped and fell, he'd definitely be meeting his ancestors. Standing on the brink of life and death, Beak Useol thought in confusion, "How am I going to cross this cliff?" Suddenly, from the other side of the cliff, a loud voice called out, "Is anyone there?" He immediately looked up and saw a group of people standing on the opposite side. Beak Useol quickly waved his hand and called out again, "Hey, this way, we're over here." He recognized that group of people as the mages who appeared in the tutorial. Immediately after he shouted like mad, "I'm here!" On the other end, someone replied, "But there's no bridge nearby." "Can you cross?" Beak Useol replied, "Is that so? I'm on my way." Receiving his signal, the girl on the other side turned to the others and said, "Then let's wait for him a bit. He said he can cross." The blue-haired young man standing beside him was still hesitant and spoke up, "But crossing this cliff is no simple matter. He would at least have to be a third-rank knight to have a chance. Can that young man do it?" The girl replied, I'm not sure either." Saying this, she suddenly widened her eyes in astonishment. "He's jumping from one rock to another so lightly and skillfully." The whole group gaped at this scene, everyone watching nervously. At this moment, Beak Useol was highly focused, trying to overcome each section one by one. As fast as lightning, he had already crossed half the distance. The whole group stood watching this scene, unable to believe their eyes, exclaiming, "What kind of trick is this?" "Some kind of jumping magic," someone replied. "That's Blink." That voice came from a blue-haired girl standing behind. The girl looked quite pretty and adorable on the outside. The purple-haired girl turned to look at the little girl, then looked in Beak Useol's direction and said in confusion, "Is that Blink?" But Blink can't be easily controlled in terms of direction and distance like that. This is quite impossible. He looks so light and proficient. Outsiders saw it that way. But Bayek Yuson was actually struggling quite a bit. Suddenly, the purple-haired girl saw something so alarmed her eyes widened, and she stammered, "Who are those two people? Are they with this young man?" At this moment on the other end, two men in black were approaching the cliff. On this side, while everyone was still confused, one of them on the other side had already started using a magic staff, creating an orange-colored power source radiating around. Immediately after, he pointed his hand straight ahead, forming a bizarre magic circle, and then launched it straight at Beak-Useol. Suddenly, a shout was heard. "Hey, be careful behind you!" At that very moment, Beak-Useol also felt a terrifying power rushing straight towards him, silently cursing, "Damn it, this is terrible!" When it just rushed close, he immediately used Blink. Magic moved to another place and luckily escaped with his life. Only a loud explosion was heard from behind. Bang, bang, boom, boom. He turned to look back to see who was ambushing him. The smoke and dust from the explosion dissipated, and the figures of two men in black loomed into view. He suddenly thought, so it was the mercenaries from before. They've revived. This is too dangerous. The blink cooldown is still 3 seconds. Dodging all that magic is impossible. I have to find another floating rock to stand on. Thinking of this, his eyes suddenly filled with alarm. Ah, damn. What the hell? So the dark mages wouldn't let him escape easily. They immediately activated another magic spell and shot it straight at him. Luckily, Beak-Useol managed to lean to one side to dodge that surge of power. But perhaps the real difficulty was just beginning now. Suddenly, the rock under his feet cracked into 2 pieces. He tried to stay upright, but it seemed impossible, immediately after he fell backward. But he didn't lose heart because of this. He was still struggling between life and death. He told himself, I have to live. I must live. But life is like a dream. All the floating rocks are too far from where he's falling. Even if there's only a glimmer of hope, he just wishes he'd land on one of them. And then his wish came true. His eyes lit up when he saw a nearby rock. Perhaps luck was on his side and heaven didn't want to take his life yet. He just used blink magic lunge towards that rock, and luckily, he managed to grab onto it. Glancing back, he exclaimed, "Did I really survive?" At this moment, he gripped the rock tightly with both hands. Before he could regain his composure, from behind a terrifying orange-colored power source rushed towards him again. Beak-Useol suddenly thought, or maybe I'll die here. But when it rushed to his feet, when he fell into despair, certain he would die. Suddenly, a blue power source rushed towards him. Immediately after, the 2 power surges collided, creating a large explosion. Boom, boom, boom. Its pressure radiated with immense power. He struggled, clinging on tightly. And then after the rain, the sky cleared. Now only smoke and dust from the explosion remained. He was still alive. If he were the main character, how could he die so quickly? He thought in astonishment. What was that magic just now? An ice spear wrapped in lightning. How is that possible? Who could combine 2 techniques into one attack like that? And what's even more impressive is calculating the projectile's accuracy without wasting any mana. Who could perform such a perfect move? At this moment in the distance, the entire group of people was staring intently at the blue-haired girl standing in the middle. Her face remained unchanged, extremely cold. Everyone who saw this scene was astonished, their faces pale. Someone spoke up in confusion. Damn impossible. How could she do something so extraordinary? As for the 2 mercenaries on the other end, seeing they were still far inferior, they knew their place and turned to retreat. Beak-Useol watched their retreating figures, sighing in relief. Phew, thank goodness I'm still alive. A moment later, he also made it to this end. Everyone warmly welcomed him. Only the blue-haired girl didn't bother to care and turned away. Seeing this, Beak-Useol ran over and thanked her profusely. Hey friend, Thank you for saving me just now. The girl glanced back coldly, replying, I didn't do it to receive any gratitude, so you don't need to bother thanking me. As she finished speaking, she turned and walked away. Beak Useol felt a bit disappointed and replied, Okay then. He watched her retreating figure and thought to himself, This girl is really interesting. I've never heard such an adorable voice before, although it seems this girl is quite hard to approach. Anyway, they are bandits. They have ravaged and plundered the villagers. They deserve this. There is a truth that most such activities are carried out by the dark cult, but luckily that also ends here. I just went through a life or death moment, but after crossing this cliff, I've set foot in the territory of mages. Here the dark cult members won't be able to tail me anymore. Thinking of this, he sighed. And those dogs don't even know who I am. Suddenly, the system displayed a notification. Episode 2, Admission to Stella Academy. Looking at the system panel, he exclaimed in astonishment, This is Episode 2. Well, it doesn't sound too bad, does it? But damn it, how am I going to go through schooling at this age? Then the whole group got on the carriage and headed to Stella Academy. By now, it was already night. The place they were passing through seemed quite deserted and quiet. Only the sound of the horse-drawn carriage, clop, 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 could be heard. Inside the carriage, Beak Useol seemed tired and was sleeping quite soundly. Suddenly he made strange sounds. He was delirious, sinking into a dream. Images from the past suddenly appeared. A rather cute little boy was tugging at his mother's clothes, cheerfully calling, Mommy, Mommy. The mother smiled gently and replied, My dear little boy, when you grow up, you'll become a mage. Mommy believes you can do it, my good Yusun. But according to Mom's diary entries, it seems Mom and Dad struggled a lot to raise him. At that time, he told himself he had to study hard to make his parents happy. When he studied late into the night and fell asleep at his desk, his mother was the one who gently covered him with a blanket. But then one day, after hearing what the doctor said, Mom was extremely worried. Doctor, did you just say my son has Manhwa syndrome? At that time, he himself was also devastated, unwilling to accept it. No, it can't be, the little boy said while wailing. But is this Beak Useol's memory or his own? Thinking of this, Beak Useol suddenly startled awake. He felt quite dizzy, put his hand to his head, and looked out through the window. Now the sky was bright and the sun was peaking high above. Someone in the carriage saw he was awake and quickly spoke. Ah, you're awake. It seems you just had a nightmare. You kept saying things I didn't understand. At that time, I was even thinking of waking you up. At the same time, someone outside spoke, We will be departing for Lezoicha, the satellite city of Arcanium, soon. The carriage slowly stopped. Another voice spoke up. Let's take a break here for a bit, shall we? The whole group quickly moved out of the carriage to relax. Biak Useol, feeling quite sore, stretched his arms high. Suddenly, he was a little surprised, his eyes widening as he looked. Coincidentally, the blue-haired girl was staring intently in his direction. At that very moment, he was about to raise his hand to exchange a few pleasantries. But before he could utter a word, she had already turned and walked away. This made him feel a bit awkward. He forced a smile. This person is really cold. But things were going quite well considering how worried he had been. He was glad the timeline here was closer to modern times than the medieval period. Magic exists in the ether world, but in safe cities, trains, airships, or skyways are all built to make long-distance travel more convenient. They will travel to Lezoicha by a very modern airship. Lezoicha is on the route to Arcanium. In Arcanium, the city of magic, everything truly begins. The Magic Towers, Mage Conferences, and 5 prestigious academies are all located in Arcanium. The academy with the most powerful mages and the most outstanding students is Stella Academy. Therefore, Stella is filled with geniuses and nobles from all over this world. But Beak Useol still couldn't understand why the character Beak Useol he transmigrated into could attend this prestigious school. Oh, right. I haven't checked my own skills yet. Thinking of this, He hurriedly opened his system to check. Immediately after the status panel appeared, Mana Leak Syndrome Level 1, Strength increased by 3%, Speed increased by 5%, Agility increased by 10%. Sixth Sense consumes the user's mental power to activate Scout's mana within a 12-meter radius. Acceleration Wave. Looking at the status panel, he was secretly grateful for the skills the character Beak Useol possessed. How could Sixth Sense and Acceleration Wave be possible? If it weren't for these two things, I probably would have died in this game already. A cursed power unable to concentrate mana in the body. Mana Leak Syndrome is a congenital curse that Beak Useol suffers from. However, this allows him to detect surrounding mana through his sixth sense. It also helps him detect any attacks heading his way, even if he's not looking in that direction. And Acceleration Wave allows him to perceive everything as if time has slowed down. If there's a threat or attack in front of him, he reacts faster than a normal person can detect. That is a necessary skill for Beak Useol because he cannot use mana. But everything has two sides. Using the sixth sense for too long will consume a lot of mental power. If overused, it can cause many undesirable consequences after use. Reading this, Beak Useol swipe to the statistics section. Name Bayek Uson. Status. Strength. 1 star 59%. Agility. 1 star 97%. Speed. 1 star 81%. Stamina stability. 1 star 51%. Endurance 0 stars 97%. Mental power 1 star 43%. Remaining mana, war skills, blink. Level or trait, mana, leak syndrome level 1. After checking the information, he suddenly thought, actually, the starting stats don't seem too bad. The original Beak Useol had very low agility, but in my hands, it will be different. I must improve this. In this game world, there isn't just one type of level, but also levels for each skill stat displayed as levels while stats are displayed as stars. The highest stat level is 9 stars, but this is almost impossible to reach. I've played this game for over 10 years, but the highest I've achieved is 8 stars in both stamina stability and agility. I should focus on investing in agility now to increase my sixth sense and reaction speed. I can improve stamina stability and flexibility in many different ways. Ultimately, the problem now is mana leak syndrome. If I don't train this, I won't survive long. I need to upgrade it to quickly reach the secret of the true body. Stella Academy is the way to suppress that syndrome. I have no other choice if I want to prevent the end of this world and treat my chronic illness. Thinking of this, Beak Useol sighed helplessly. Phew. Actually, I don't want to go there myself. Someone please save me from this situation. Suddenly the system dinged. You have missed some notifications, he exclaimed in surprise. Oh, I've never looked at this before. But before he could check, an urgent voice called out, Hey young people, let's go quickly. Beak Useol had to put aside those notifications to check later. The blue-haired girl was still keeping a close eye on him, but remained cold and silent. In front of them was an airship hovering in the sky, enormous and modern. On the ship, everyone seemed quite excited and expectant. Suddenly, an announcement was heard from the loudspeaker. Attention please, we are about to arrive at Arcanium. Please remain seated. At this moment, one of them saw something and was quite surprised. Immediately after, he used a sarcastic tone to mock, Hey you guys, look at that guy looking around like a little kid. Has he never been on an airship before? Haha. According to their gazes, the person being mentioned was Beak Useol. At this moment, he was looking around. Everything here was unfamiliar to him. They continued to gossip. Is that guy new from the countryside? He looks like a country bumpkin in the city, doesn't he? Tusk. I don't understand why Stella would let trash like this enroll. At this point, Beak Useol also heard those whispers talking about him. He looked up at them. Not stopping, they continued to scorn. This will spread everywhere, just you watch. A few guys like him are enough to defile everything. He still looked at them, but then didn't bother with those jeers. Just sighed and turned away. His reaction surprised the other guy quite a bit. Beak Useol thought dejectedly, a bunch of brats. I'm an adult. I won't stoop to their level. It was precisely his indifferent act that made the young master extremely lose face, shouting, "Hey, you brat! You dare look at us like that! Are you tired of living?" He frowned, gritted his teeth, and continued, "You damn brat, you stop right there for me." Suddenly, a gentle voice was heard. "Hey, what are you guys making such a fuss about?" He was startled and turned to look in the direction of the voice. His eyes widened in astonishment. Looming in the distance was the figure of a girl with long hair. Immediately after, he trembled and exclaimed, "Princess Billon." According to his gaze, in front of everyone was a princess with an extremely beautiful appearance, a cold and arrogant demeanor. This was Princess Billon Adalabit of the Adalabit Kingdom. She said nothing more, just coldly walked past that group of people. When he saw the princess pass by where he was standing, the young master smiled warmly, placed his hand on his chest, and greeted her politely, "Your Highness." Before he could say anything more, the princess shot him a look as cold as ice, then didn't bother to care, and walked away. This made him feel quite awkward, his mouth agape, unable to utter a word. She just coldly walked inside, leaving the entire group of people staring at each other in disappointment. On this side, she had already brushed past Beek Yusiol. He suddenly realized she was the enemy of this world according to the storyline. Hong Byeon is a main character in the game. She and the female lead always disagreed, but in the end, she was the one who died. No matter which route was chosen, she was still brutally killed in most endings, or had to commit suicide due to being bullied by the entire academy. She had to go through the most shameful things in front of everyone, as if the developers hated her and wanted her to endure everything. At this moment, he suddenly became somber, thinking, "I once heard she was extremely famous among players. It's true, she's very beautiful but too cold, as if she would kill me if I dared to talk to her." Suddenly, his stomach rumbled. He immediately put his hand up to rub his stomach. The immediate problem is to fill my stomach first. As soon as he stepped onto the second floor at some stall, he saw many different kinds of glittering pastries. He randomly chose an item, but as soon as he held it in his hand, his face turned pale. He thought, "Oh, why is it so expensive?" Even so, he clicked his tongue and ate to fill his stomach first. After eating, Baek Yuson walked out dazed like someone who had lost their rice ration book. He thought dejectedly, "Damn it, is it always like this every time I eat in Arcanium? It's over." At this moment, the loudspeaker announcement sounded again. Ano. Attention everyone, we will arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes. Please everyone be present on the ground floor. To repeat, we will arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes. Please everyone be present on the ground floor. Thank you very much for listening. Hearing this, Beek Yusiol smiled and thought, "Finally it's starting. Anyway, this is my reality now." Thinking of this, he excitedly exclaimed, "Let's do this." A moment later, the whole group had arrived at Stella Academy. Looking at the unfamiliar crowd here, Beek Yuseol felt quite out of place. He took a long, deep breath. Luckily, he had solved the immediate problem. The dark cult members wouldn't be able to tail me anymore. But can I survive in this place? Surviving in this world is not easy at all. I wish I had something useful in this situation. Thinking of this, he suddenly realized he hadn't read the system notifications from before. He immediately opened the system to check. The notification content appeared as follows. Project Constellation gifts you a special reward. Choice 1. The weapon you used in the game at a lower level. 2. The skill you received in the game with lower power. 3. Experience. Looking at the status line, he pondered thoughtfully. Oh, it seems this system has some morals after all. But let's see, what should I get? Should I choose the 2-bolt reflector? As if reading Baek Yuson's thoughts, the system immediately replied, according to the search results, the rank of such equipment is too high, so its rank will be lowered. He continued to ask, then what about superspatial blink? The system replied, according to the search results, this skill is an upgraded version of blink, so it cannot be obtained. However, you can use the reward to enhance the blink skill. After reading, He froze silently, cursing, "This damn system, do I really have to downgrade?" Seeing him complain, the system immediately explained, "Due to a lack of narrative energy, we cannot fully realize it." What's that? He was bewildered. The system continued, "The thing that affects the story's process is called narrative energy. If you continue to explore hidden storylines, it will accumulate. Therefore, in the short term, you cannot possess overly powerful items because you are just a newcomer." He waited anxiously for the next answer, but the system didn't display anything further. He asked further, "Then what about the bulbal glasses?" The system replied, "Based on the results, we conclude that it can be provided." "Then I'll take it." As he finished speaking, the system immediately threw him the bulbal glasses. He held the glasses in his hand, observed them for a moment, and thought dejectedly, "I never thought there would be a day when I'd actually have to wear this damn thing." Note: the bulbal glasses are an item containing all the information the player has collected while playing the game in the ether world. Players cannot remember or read information about the monsters they have hunted or the knowledge they have acquired. Therefore, they develop countless items to store information in their own way. Beak Usiol was no exception. He used the bulbal glasses to store information. He excitedly put on the glasses to check. A blue light emanated from the glasses. Immediately after, it displayed a notification, "Bulbal glasses rank 0. Description: cannot remember last night's dinner." No problem, because these glasses store details of what you have seen and learned. Special feature: sealed bulbal folder. Uses mental power to activate. He opened another folder to see. The system displayed another notification. Ingredients for alchemy hunting grounds, dungeons characters. Seeing this, he felt quite satisfied. This place is just like the real world. So I don't even know what to say about the things I can do using the system. But with these glasses, I can regain about half the power I used to have. Suddenly at this moment there were whispers from behind, "Hey, isn't that Isel Molf? Oh, you mean the eldest daughter of the traitor Munducci? Oh, how dare she show her face here. Shh, shh, speak softly, she'll hear you." Hearing the familiar name in the story, Bak Yuson was curious. Isel Molf. Now that you mention it, one of the bulbal glasses skills allows me to register or check information about characters in the storyline. Let me see how she is. Immediately after, an information panel appeared. Name: Isel Molf. Description: fake heroine, ice and lightning mage, likes to drink pickle juice before eating pizza. Eldest daughter of Monducci. Her father's death led to the decline of the family. Outcome: will die. After reading, BQ Seol thought to himself, "Oh, so she's a fake hero." To talk about Isel Molf, a fake hero, there's one point I have to point out. Although the place I'm in is the ether world in the game, the truth is, this world is based on a romance novel called Don't Love the Princess. That novel tells the story of the heroine Isel Molf, who lost all her relatives and grew up by confronting the schemes of the villain Hong Bion. The ending is that she lives happily with the male lead. Her revenge plan almost disappears, and other male characters protect her. But it had a sad ending after receiving mixed reactions from readers. The problem here is, although the game world is based on the novel, the storylines are different. In the game, a character named Flame was added simultaneously, replacing the role of the heroine. Moreover, Flame has her own storyline. She was once a woman living a normal life in the modern world, enjoyed reading the novel Don't Love the Princess, and was reincarnated here. Therefore, unlike in the novel, Isel Molf became the fake heroine in the game, while Flame became the true hero. No matter how hard the player tried, Isel Molf still couldn't survive in any storyline. This is the result of her being pushed out of the true hero position. But it has nothing to do with me. But I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. It's probably just my imagination. Now is the time for me to be ready to face this truth. After a long, stormy day, a new day dawned. Bright sunbeams shone throughout Stella Academy. Inside, the students had changed into their uniforms and were standing in neat rows listening to the speech. At this moment the headmaster spoke. As you all know, the dark mages are witches, those who have gained power from other worlds and turned into monsters. Currently, they are still continuing their invasion by opening persona gates or releasing ancient dungeons to seize the magical world. Our responsibility as mages is to protect the world from these evil forces. Hearing this, whispers suddenly arose from below. Starting a semester with this boring speech. That's right, it's so dull. At the same time, the speech continued. And right after this, we will attend the oath-taking ceremony for the 4 students with the highest scores who will also represent the new students. Come on, please come up to the front. Immediately after the outstanding faces stepped forward one by one. These were all handsome, beautiful young men and women with radiant faces. Looking at them, Beak Yuseol thought to himself, they are all shining faces as if they themselves are the main characters. But who is the brightest one here? That's right, it's him. The headmaster's voice rang out. Representing all the new students present here, Ma Yusong, please come up and speak. At this moment, the group of sisters below looked on and sighed in admiration. Oh, is he the one with the highest entrance score? What kind of person is both smart and handsome? Beak Yuseol looked on and had to admit, so this is the famous Ma Yusong. Note in the game, Ma Yuseong is a perfect character for the saying, heaven and below, I alone am honored, with a 9-star mana stat possessing potential close to the gods. He is a genius among geniuses able to control all elements in the world. Even if I don't make it to the grand finale, I still have to avoid bad endings by pulling Ma Yusong to the good side. However, that cute short-haired girl is probably Flame, right? Beak Yuseol began to immerse himself in speculation, but it still depended on how she would act from now on. Because she is also a transmigrator who came here like me. Partnering with her might be a good idea, but would things get more complicated if she considered me an enemy and rejected me? Anyway, I have an advantage in information, so I shouldn't ruin anything. Flame is a reader of fantasy romance novels while I am a player in this fantasy game. I swear I will do so even though my role in the storyline is not even comparable to a tiny villain in a shop. Moreover, the heroine Flame has a special ability to purify dark mages. But besides that, she also has the ability to bring misfortune to those close to her. Being near her will definitely affect me. My role is to support the main characters from afar and limit my involvement with them as much as possible. Thinking of this, the speech of the new male student of the Divine Academy Tangma was also finished. Below, everyone clapped in applause. The headmaster's voice rang out, "Then I declare we will conclude today's matriculation ceremony here." Immediately after attending the matriculation ceremony, BQCO's system displayed a notification. Congratulations on completing Episode 2, Mission Join Stella Academy. After the opening ceremony ended, all students gathered in a certain lecture hall. Each person freely chose a seat for themselves. Beak Yushol looked quite sad at this moment, thinking to himself, I graduated from university a long time ago, and now I'm suddenly a high school student again. It feels so strange, but then he comforted himself. Anyway, there's something quite wonderful in this place. He held the watch in his hand, pondered, this is it. It's really good to have this. This is the Stella Watch, proof that you are a student of the most prestigious Stella Academy. If you possess it, you will receive privileges and better services than other mages. Thinking of this, he happily put the watch carefully into his pants pocket, telling himself, hey, I have to quickly seize this opportunity. At this moment, someone opened the door and walked in. A man with a cold face entered, stepped onto the podium and said, all students are required to remain seated in class. We will begin the test now, except for writing utensils. Please put away all other items. If anyone is wearing glasses, I must check them first. Beak Yuseol thought dejectedly, the opening ceremony just finished, and there's a test already. The curriculum at Stella Academy is more rigorous than most universities in South Korea. Students have to take a test on the very first day. This is a placement test through which they will evaluate and assign classes to students. After distributing the exam papers to everyone, the teacher returned to the podium and said loudly, "Students, pay attention. We have 45 minutes to complete the test. Time starts now. Please focus." For someone who had studied this program for a long time, like Beek Useol, who had returned every letter to his teachers, seeing the exam paper made him dejected. His face covered in sweat, thinking, "Damn it, I don't even understand what I'm reading, so how am I supposed to do it? This is so tough." The placement test is not related to the entrance exam at all. It's famous for its terrifying difficulty. Students are divided by rank from F to A and S rank based on their scores. Of course, most player characters belong to the S class. In contrast, Beek Useol is ranked last among 1,141 students. Looking at the exam paper, he hesitated. Or should I submit a blank paper? I've already been admitted anyway, so I probably won't get expelled. Let's just consider myself voluntarily placed in the F-rank class. He glanced around. At this moment, everyone seemed quite focused on the test. Only Ma Yusong was idly sitting, resting his chin on his hand, absent-mindedly thinking about something. Beek Useol looked at himself again, a little disappointed. Oh, he's already idling. Could it be that he's already finished? No wonder he looks so bored with life. In this game, Ma Yusong's personality is listless. He was born into the most powerful clan on the continent, possessing a genius brain and supreme talent. Everything is easy for him. Depending on the female lead's actions, Ma Yusong will side with good or evil. All members of the dark cult who want to exterminate humanity are extremely interested in him. And from the very beginning, the biggest problem was his clan. Observing such a genius makes me reevaluate myself even more. Suddenly he realized, wait a minute. Why am I so stupid? I can use the bulbul glasses, can't I? I used it before to accumulate skills learned in the library. At this moment, it's really useful and there's nothing to lose. I have to try it. Thinking of this, he reached into his breast pocket, took out the glasses, and was just about to put them on when the proctor suspected his behavior, approached and said, "Wait, what's with your glasses?" I said, "If you're going to use glasses, I have to check them first. Give them to me to check." Beek Useol was startled and thought to himself, "Right, damn it, I forgot about this." He hurriedly handed the glasses to the teacher. The teacher held the glasses in his hand, observing them intently. On this side, Beek Useol was scared to death, his face covered in sweat, thinking, "It's over. What should I do? If it's discovered these are magic glasses, I'll be expelled." He looked up, praying to the heavens and Buddha, "Please, help me get through this ordeal." Suddenly, the dam system displayed a notification. A missing part of the bulbul glasses has been detected. Do you want to summon it? Beek Useol was scared to death. No put system. On this side, the proctor was still using magic to inspect the glasses. After a while of not finding anything, the teacher returned them to him, saying, "I don't see any mana here, but next time, remember to ask first." Beek Useol was relieved and happily replied, "Yes, sir, I apologize." At the same time, he was secretly glad. Phew, if the original feature was active, I'd be in big trouble. He immediately put the glasses on his face, looking more intellectual. Immediately after, the answers to each question appeared before his eyes. Based on that, he copied them down smugly, thinking, "I've hit the jackpot. Who knows, maybe I'll get first place. With this momentum, I'll definitely escape F rank, maybe even reach A rank." While focusing on copying, the teacher's voice suddenly spoke, "Time's up for the test. Please stop writing and submit your papers." As soon as he finished speaking, the proctor used magic to collect the students' papers. No one could try to add another word. Watching the exam papers fly towards the teacher, Beek Useol's face contorted, thinking, I've only answered 3 questions. At this moment, the teacher held a stack of exam papers. He glanced over them, and suddenly his eyes widened in astonishment. On this side, Beek Useol was still disappointed, thinking he had finally escaped F rank. In reality, It was probably a bit too much for him. He reached up and took off his glasses. Suddenly, the teacher noticed something turned to look at him in alarm and shouted, "Hey, you student over there, give me your glasses immediately." Hearing this, Beak Yuseol's hair stood on end, stammering, "Yeah, yes." The teacher took the glasses, pondered thoughtfully. Strange, impossible. Then he turned to look at him and said, "Hey, you there, call Dr. Grayan immediately for me." He replied, "Yes, sir," but inwardly he was confused. What's wrong with the teacher? All of a sudden, I even wrote carefully to avoid suspicion of cheating. Oh no, it's over. Or have I been caught? A moment later in the doctor's office, the teacher's anxious voice spoke, "Doctor, what do you think?" The person holding the glasses for inspection was Professor of Magic Dr. Grayan. He replied, "The fact that this boy could answer this question is indeed suspicious." The teacher hurriedly asked, "Then did he cheat?" The doctor replied, "Cheat? He didn't cheat at all. I don't feel any magical energy from the glasses or any other item. He definitely did it with his own abilities." Beak Yuseol was now feigning innocence, putting on an aggrieved expression. The doctor laughed with great interest, patted his shoulder, and said, "Ha ha, this is really interesting. I really didn't expect to encounter such a case at the end of my life. Anyway, Professor Lee Hanwol remembered to apologize and give him further guidance." The teacher felt a bit ashamed and replied, "Ah, yes, sir." Then he turned to him and said, "I misunderstood you. I apologize." Hearing this, Beak Yuseol grinned from ear to ear, thinking to himself, "Actually, I did cheat, sir. But if the original feature were active, I'd be dead." Then he replied, "Yes, it's nothing, sir." At the same time, a moment later in Professor Lee Hanwol's office, the teachers were focused on grading the exam papers. When grading a certain student's paper, the teacher was surprised, held the paper in his hand, and looked at it for a long time as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Oh, Professor Lee Hanwol, is this the first-year student's exam?" Lee Hanwol replied, "Yes." The woman cheerfully added, "I heard there are many outstanding students this year, right?" This woman is a member of the Stella Academy's Council of Elders, Professor Edel Timon. Lee Hanwol replied, "That's right. This year there are quite a few outstanding students. From the most prestigious clan in the fire magic world, Princess Hong Byon of the Adalibet Fire Nation. Then there's the heir of the Scalvin Empire, Jeremy Scalvin, who surpassed all his older brothers in the war for the throne at the age of 12 thanks to his magical talent. And from the most majestic magic tower in the world, the Full Mulf Tower, the successor to the Tower Master Hai Wan Riang, also enrolled this year." Hearing this, Professor Edel Timon was impressed. "Oh, I heard it's very difficult to set questions for the elite students from famous clans, right? This year will definitely be interesting." Professor Lee Hanwol replied, "If the elder is pleased, I am happy." As Professor Edel Timon said, this year's exam has a new format. The first 3 questions are very difficult to solve with only ordinary academic ability. They are riddles with implied meanings, testing agility. If they can't solve it, will the students quickly move on to the next question? Second, how will students solve a problem they've never encountered in books? The era of rote learning magic theory is over. Now is the era of practical combat requiring quick judgment and creative thinking. But that question didn't need an answer. Over 1,000 out of 1,141 students left their papers blank. The remaining 100 students tried to find the answer but didn't provide the correct one. Among the new students, only 3 answered correctly. Ma Yusong, the genius of the century, appeared like a comet, but no one knew which clan he came from. Flame, who was recommended to the school by the headmaster, although only a commoner, her talent is recognized only slightly inferior to Ma Yusong. And finally, Beak Yuseol, a character with no reputation whatsoever. Ma Yusong and Flame being considered geniuses is nothing to say, but this Beak Yuseol has a very low entrance score. Yet unexpectedly, he managed to solve all 3 difficult questions, especially when he left the remaining questions blank without even bothering to answer. The professor standing beside saw Professor Lee Hanwol lost in thought and curiously asked, "What's wrong with you? It seems you're paying attention to the kids' scores." Professor Lee Hanwol replied in confusion, "It's just that I can't explain the scores of some students." She continued, "Oh, this is understandable. Anyway, those formulas don't solve anything. If the kids don't know, you can still solve it." "But do you think this child is a genius?" Professor Lee Hanwol asked. The senior calmly replied, "It could also just be luck." As she finished speaking, she turned and walked away, leaving Professor Lee Hanwol stunned. He felt confused, sighed, and then looked for his admission file. On the file was a note: "Special admission due to highly evaluated blink control ability." Seeing this, Professor Lee Hanwol had to accept the truth, thinking, "So being specially admitted by the headmaster himself makes a difference, huh? But learning combat magic and specializing in blink, that's really interesting." But we'll soon find out if this is a coincidence or if this child is truly special. After the exam results were out, the school used them to divide students into separate classes. At this moment, everyone was eagerly going to see which class they were assigned to. Only the sound of people asking each other could be heard. "I heard the class assignment results are posted on the bulletin board. I'm so nervous, Mom said if I don't get into Class A, don't even bother coming home." Beek Useol trudged behind, dejectedly thinking, "I can't believe it. Is there really a day when I have to check my own class assignment results? If it were before, I just needed to click the mouse once and it would be there." Thinking of this, he went to the bulletin board. At this moment, a boy in blue kept looking at him as if he were an alien. Then there were whispers right behind him. "Is he Beek Useol? I heard he got 0 points on the practical magic part of the entrance exam." "Really? I can't believe it. How did trash like him get into Stella?" Byuk Useol didn't bother paying attention to the surrounding gossip. What he cared about most right now was which class his name was in. As for the rest, nothing else mattered. He approached the notice board, scanned it quickly. Bewildered. "My name." He was utterly shocked and thought, "Could it be that I failed because I only answered 3 questions? Heavens, no way, I'm definitely doomed." While he was still disappointed, his friends continued to gossip. "Beek Useol, how could he? It must be some mistake, how strange." U.S. Lek from the Marquise Czech-Bylan family ranked 29th got into Class A. Even Kyle, who got a perfect score, in theory ranked 17th, was also placed in Class A. So how could he? Seeing the group mention his name in a hush-hush manner, Beek Useol was curious, hesitant. "What's going on? Should I go take a look? I've failed anyway." Thinking this, he decided to approach the crowd to listen. Suddenly, his eyes widened in astonishment when he saw his name. "What the? My name there, impossible. Is there some mistake? What the hell is this?" The most special rank that every student dreams of S-Class, where the most outstanding students of the prestigious Stella Academy gather. Unlike other classes with students of various levels, S-Class only has 41 students and only one single rank. At this moment, he raised his hand to rub his head, musing, "I'm ranked S-Class. If only this were some mistake, I'm going to lose my mind. Now I'll be bumping into the main character of this game more often. Why does getting involved with the main character only shorten my lifespan further? I can't even change this. Well, I'll just have to try to live in seclusion then. Everything will find a solution." Outside the academy, it was still quite normal and quiet, but in a hidden corner of the academy, an angry woman slapped Princess Bion hard across the face, and also Princess Bion's mother. She continued, "You can't even answer questions that even those insects can get right. That means you're even lower than an insect. You should reflect on yourself. Do you understand, Bion?" The frail girl replied, "Yes, mother." The mother, still annoyed, gave her daughter a sharp look, then sighed and said chokingly, "Listen to me, Bion. You cannot become like me, someone exiled from the kingdom and holding this foolish professor position. You must not become a disgrace to the kingdom." Saying this, she bent down, gently placing her hands on her little daughter's cheeks, saying, You must become an existence even better than your sister." Then she gave a gentle smile like any other mother looking tenderly at her child. "You understand what I mean, don't you?" Biyun's cheeks were now flushed red. She thought for a moment, then spoke. "Of course I understand, mother." But in truth, she was lying to herself when she uttered those words. She didn't understand anything at all. She had lived the way she was taught, solving everything mechanically. But this time, those problems included magic, sorcery, and even formulas for things she had never learned before. So what should I do? Thinking this, she burst into tears resentfully. Tears streamed down. Why, why do you torment me like this?" At the same time, in the S-class classroom, students had all gathered. Beek Yuseol sat alone at the top desk, wearily holding his face, thinking, "I'm done for. Of course I get transferred to a place full of weirdos like this. It's not like I'm trying to befriend them, is it?" At this moment, whispers of gossip arose. "Why is he here? That's what I'm talking about. I just can't understand it. Did you know our families protested and asked why he was in S-class? He just said Beek Yuseol was qualified enough to be in S-class. Really, that's so strange." Even though the others were whispering amongst themselves, Bayek Yuseol could still hear their conversation. He thought forlornly, "It seems like I'm an outcast." But that's also true. They themselves had diligently trained hard since they were young, so they would be very desperate to know someone like him was in the same class. A person's class would change according to their academic performance, so this was also normal. Even this S-class was no exception. Someone could be pushed down to a lower class. Or there were also male students who advanced from Class A to S-class later. Well then, at that time, I'll find them to talk to. Beek Yuseol looked around, people quite familiar from the game, yet by some miracle he had become their classmate. Thinking about all this is truly magical. The game characters are standing right in front of me. In a few years, most students in this class will become famous throughout the continent. And there are also 5 among them who have the potential to betray the Magic Council. Ma Yusong is also one of them. If Flame could prevent that from the beginning, it would be great. Suddenly, Professor Lee walked in and spoke. "Hello, students. Please settle down quickly." Hearing this somewhat familiar voice, Beek Yuseol turned to look towards the podium. At this moment, the powerful professor was speaking. "I am very honored to meet you all. Some of you have probably seen me before, but I will still introduce myself as usual. I am the professor of S-class Lee Hanwol." Hearing this, the students below started whispering again. One said, "Oh, so that's the famous Professor Lee Hanwol." The one next to him replied, "The number of dark mages he has hunted is almost in the 4 digits. How savage they even call him a level 7 magic warrior. He's really on a different level." Seeing the students bewildered and excitedly discussing, Professor Lee spoke up to remind them, "Now students, please be orderly. This year it seems there are many talented students here, and there's also a specially admitted student. As you know, this academy is where we nurture combat mages, or as they are also called, magic warriors. You will experience a rigorous educational environment for 3 years. I expect all of you to keep up with the program. I want all of you to show me the best you can do during your time under this school's roof. So now, does anyone have any questions?" Before the teacher's question, the whole class remained silent. The teacher smiled and continued, "Good then, let's begin the lesson." At this moment, outside the door, the figure of Princess Beyond was entering. Seeing her with a bruised cheek, everyone was quite surprised. And Beek Yuseol was no exception. He thought in surprise, "Beyond is someone who always abides by the rules more than anyone else. How could she be late? Is something wrong with her?" She approached the teacher, apologized, and said something, her face showing fatigue and disappointment. Beek Yuseol curiously took out his monocle to inspect. As soon as he put it on, an information panel appeared. "Beyond antagonist fire mage. Likes red ginseng candy, occasionally blames herself, only drinks Acalia-style sofa coffee. Has a cruel mother destined to die. After reading, he suddenly thought, not much has changed. Her fate is sealed to die. But if Isel dies because of flame, then Beyond will also die. It can be considered the inevitable fate of an antagonist. I'll save her if I can, but I'm not in a position to save anyone. Thinking this, he felt a bit melancholic, then took off his monocle. After hearing her explanation for being late, the teacher said, "You should find a seat." On this side, Baek Yuseol was still sighing sadly, thinking, "I feel pretty bad, but I can only keep my distance." Then he just spaced out, lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, Bion approached his seat. Her eyes filled with resentment and sorrow looked at him. As for him, he still couldn't understand what was happening. Immediately after Bion sat down in the seat next to him, Baek Yuseol thought dazedly, what's this? This feeling I have right now. Could it be that everything has been distorted from the very beginning? After everyone had settled in their seats, the teacher spoke, "So before we begin the lesson, we will have an inheritance ceremony for you to receive your wands. S-class and A-class will hold the ceremony together. As for the details, I will instruct you later." Baek Yuseol felt a bit bewildered after hearing this. An inheritance ceremony? That sounds quite troublesome. But then he smiled anticipation for the day of the event showing. At Stella Academy, there are two major events. One is the Soulmate Pact, and the other is the inheritance ceremony. For a prestigious academy like Stella, the inheritance ceremony holds a very special place. A while later, students of S-class and A-class gathered in a rather mystical place. Professor Lee spoke, "Is everyone here? Many wands from the lowest to medium rank are prepared here. What you need to do is go to the wand you like and take it. The process of changing wands after choosing is very complicated, so I hope you choose carefully." Baek Yuseol suddenly thought after hearing this. Although he said that we are not the ones who choose the wands, it's something else. In this world, wands only react to those they acknowledge, creating a resonance effect. That also means you can't use a high-level wand just because you want to. Thinking this, he approached the magic wands floating in the air. He looked around, extremely hesitant. He also didn't know which one he should choose. He just stood there dazedly thinking, if it were before, I would have chosen a low-rank wand quickly. But now that I'm in S-class, I can't just pick one randomly for them to look down on me forever. Suddenly, a rather simple wand caught his eye. In this world, magic implements are divided into two types: wands and staves. Wands are usually used by the knight profession, those who need to use magic quickly. On the other hand, staves are used by the priest profession, those who focus on a single strike with more casting time. Suddenly, at this moment, whispers of gossip arose behind him. "Hey, which one do you think he'll choose? Since he's in S-class, he probably won't have any problems with resonance, right?" Baek Yuseol realized he was the one they were targeting, but he ignored everything thinking, "You brats can say whatever you want, I don't care what nonsense you're spouting, it's tiring." Suddenly someone from behind called him, hey guy." He was bewildered, not knowing who was calling him, turned his head to look. A completely unfamiliar face appeared. He immediately asked, "What's up and who are you?" This guy with a somewhat arrogant face replied boldly, "I'm US Lek." Baek Yuseol still couldn't remember who he was after hearing it, thinking, probably just some minor character. This is the first time I've heard this name. Well, just answer him and get it over with. Then he replied indifferently, "Is that so? I see." US Lek crossed his arms and continued, "Which wand are you planning to choose?" He replied calmly, "I'll just pick one randomly." After hearing this, he smirked sarcastically. "You'd better choose a wand that suits your commoner status. Don't try to climb too high and fall hard, then you'll just cause trouble for Professor Lee." "That's ridiculous, buddy." Baek Yuseol's face at this moment was like, "You think I'm scared of you?" He didn't care, turned his face and walked away, not forgetting to add a taunt. "Oh, all right then. Don't you cause any trouble either." Seeing his defiant attitude, US Lek grew even more furious, blood rushing to his head, his face flushed red. Immediately after, he seemed to go crazy, roaring, "Damn it, you bastard! You want to fight, huh? So annoying. Baek Yushol already wanted to ignore him, but this little brat still wanted to provoke him. He sighed wearily, took the monocle from his pocket and put it on. At this moment, the kid's information appeared right before his eyes. U.S. Lek Chek Bylan, son of Marquis Chek Bylan, subordinate of Prince Jeremy. Dissatisfaction level 3. After reading, he took off the monocle, put it away, thought with some disappointment, "Damn, is this all the information?" Then he looked up towards him, sighed wearily. "Is there anything special about him?" U.S. Lek immediately pointed towards a magic wand, said cockily, "Anyway, I'm planning to choose that one, so you watch carefully." Following his hand, Baek Yuseol saw it was a magic staff. Not only that, it was also the item Edamiri staff. It seemed to be the highest ranked one here. A normal high-level medium staff is usually used by professional mages. On the other hand, no matter how talented you are, a low-level medium staff was already the limit for students. Even professional mages rarely use low-rank medium staves. The high-rank medium staves here, besides the item Edamiri, there were no others. It was mainly placed here for show, as everyone knew very well that no student here could take it. At this moment, the teacher spoke again. "You should stand in front of the wand you like." After hearing this, the students one by one approached the wands. It seemed like everyone had found their own choice. Immediately after, blue lights emanated around. Behind, the students exclaimed in admiration, "Wow, isn't the wand Haewoon chose Hayden Amikotten? That's a medium rank wand." Prince Scalvin also chose a medium rank wand. Looking at the scene around, Baek Yuseol also spoke. Princess Byeon chose Suaviter Lahavo. That's also a medium rank wand. How many people can choose a medium rank wand? This year is truly crazy. U.S. Lek was even more furious now, gritting his teeth in anger, saying, "Damn it. Just wait, I can do it too." As soon as the words were out, he made up his mind and headed straight for the staff in front of him. He walked amidst the astonishment of everyone around. Gasps of alarm rang out. "Isn't that U.S. Lek? Can he resonate with a high-level medium staff?" U.S. Lek reached out his hand, approaching a certain medium-rank staff. He grinned smugly as if to say, "I'll show you guys something to widen your eyes. Let's see what a real S-class talent is like." Then he gripped the staff tightly. Immediately, small sparks of electricity blinked around. Immediately after was a loud explosion. Boom! Its immense pressure radiated powerfully, blinding everyone around. This didn't surprise Baek Yuseol too much. He closed and opened his eyes, thinking, just as I predicted, he failed. At this moment, U.S. Lek was thrown far away by the power emanating from the staff. He lay flat on the ground, gritting his teeth, unresigned. The students standing nearby who witnessed this scene cried out in alarm. "Oh no, it looks like he's seriously injured. Hey, someone call the professor quickly." A high-level medium staff is impossible. How the hell is this guy so reckless? Baek Yuseol just sighed, thinking, now who's the one climbing high and falling hard, little bro? From the beginning, it would have been better if you had given up this idea. Thinking this suddenly, the figure of a student approached that staff. He seemed quite confident, whistling as he walked. It turned out the true owner of that staff had already been decided. And this confident person was none other than Ma Yusong. He stood looking at the staff in front of him quite intently, then gave a smug smile. It seemed at this moment he was quite satisfied with his decision. But at this action, the surrounding students suddenly exclaimed, "Heavens, heavens! Is he going to take the high-level medium scepter? I don't think he can resonate with it." Ignoring the surrounding gossip, Ma Yusong coldly reached out to touch the staff. He gripped it tightly. Immediately after, it emitted a blinding light all around, but he remained standing still, completely unaffected. Its pressure was too strong, causing everyone around to raise their hands to shield their eyes. As expected, Ma Yusong could resonate with this staff. Holding the staff in his hand, he gave a bright smile. His image at this moment was incredibly radiant. The surrounding students still couldn't believe the truth before their eyes, exclaiming, "It's unbelievable. Impossible. Why could a first-year student get a high-level general scepter? Oh my God! Could this really happen?" Baek Yuseo wasn't too surprised, sighed and thought, "I already guessed it. And from now on, more and more people will know how talented he is." Suddenly, Ma Yusong glanced in his direction. This made Baek Yuseol bewildered, not understanding what he was looking at. Then Ma Yusong smiled friendly and approached. Both of Baek Yuseol's eyes felt a chill at this moment. His hair stood on end, thinking, "Damn it, is he crazy? What's he laughing at?" But he suddenly remembered the plot of this game. Flame also possessed another high-level general scepter, Terravone. However, this was where they parted ways. If Flame successfully obtained Terravone, Ma Yusong would be interested in her because of her talent, opening up his path. But conversely, if she chose another scepter, Ma Yusong would follow a completely different path. "I have to use Flame to attract Ma Yusong." Thinking this, Baek Yuseol found Flame. She was approaching a certain wand, but was still quite hesitant, wavering. At this moment, Baek Yuseol realized it was the Terravone. He was anxious, his eyes fixed intently in that direction. Flame moved closer and closer to the Terravone, standing looking at her back. Baek Yuseol told himself, "That's right. Take it. Then Ma Yusong will be curious about Flame, and we'll have a perfect happy ending." But before he could rejoice upon getting close to the Terravone, she suddenly turned and left. This shocked him so much he wanted to vomit blood. What the heck? Doesn't she like Terravone? What's going on? Doesn't she know? Or doesn't she have enough information? The situation doesn't look good. Flame can resonate with any scepter because she's the main character. But what if she chooses a completely strange scepter? Then I'll lose another good option. This won't do. I have to take action. I have to push Terravone towards Flame. Thinking this, he focused, aimed at Flame's position, then used his blink skill to quickly dash to her. Quick as lightning, he was behind her. Suddenly, Flame sensed someone standing right behind her. She immediately turned around, thinking in bewilderment, "What the heck? When did he get behind me?" Baek Yuseol raised his hand, smiled friendly. "Hello, hi there. Ah, I was just curious which scepter you were planning to choose." Flame replied, confused. "Why do you want to know? Does it have anything to do with you?" Baek Yuseol replied awkwardly, "I just wanted to give you a little advice because you seem a bit confused." Hearing his nonsensical answer, Flame replied coldly, "That's none of your business either. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving." With that, she turned her back and left. Seeing this, Baek Yuseol was about to say something. Wait. Then he suddenly realized something was wrong here. Flame should have been friendly with everyone. She's a sociable person, isn't she? Huh? But why is she so cold? I can't give up like this either. My whole life depends on it. Thinking this, he mustered all his courage and called out, "Hey, wait. I really just want to help you." At this moment, Flame was even more annoyed, replying, "You nosy woman, worry about yourself first. You haven't even chosen one for yourself, and you're meddling in other people's business." But Baek Yuseol wasn't discouraged by this. He continued, "Hey now, but I feel there's a scepter that suits you perfectly." After hearing this, Flame angrily shouted, "Are you trying to teach me what the hell do you know about scepters?" Faced with this attitude, Baek Yuseol felt a bit intimidated, thinking to himself, "What the heck, did I do something wrong? Or does she not care about a lowly minor character like me?" He stammered in reply, Actually, I've heard a lot about you. Don't you think you can get that scepter?" Flame replied bewilderedly, "Terravone, how?" Seeing she had calmed down, Baek Yuseol grinned widely, saying, "That's right, that's the one." Suddenly, some noise made Baek Yuseol's smile vanish. A loud explosion rang out, pressure radiated around, scaring him silly, his eyes wide open. Then suddenly a wand flew into his hand from nowhere. He blinked, exclaiming, "Huh, what is this?" Then he carefully observed the scepter. Immediately after, his face turned pale. "Why is it in my hand? Flame should have been the one to take it, damn it." At this moment, Baek Yuseol was speechless, not knowing how to explain. His face showed some embarrassment, while Flame stood there dumbfounded for a moment. Immediately after, she grinned widely, exclaiming, "So what?" Baek Yuseol looked at this strange attitude and got goosebumps trembling as he replied, "Nothing." But at this moment, he was secretly worried about the future. "So, it's over. I'm done for. This, even if I want to live in seclusion, I can't anymore." So the inheritance ceremony ended, but it seemed its aftermath lingered. At this moment on the school grounds, Flame was leisurely walking behind a group of students. Accidentally, she overheard the conversation of two young men in front. One said, "Hey, have you heard the hot news? This year, two students got high-level general scepters." The other person, surprised, replied, "What, really? So far, only 5 people have ever done it. Now there are 2 more." That's right, but it's very strange, you know. One of the two only used Blink in the magic demonstration test." "Oh, Blink is just basic magic. How could that be?" "My parents once said Blink is a rare magic. This is really strange." Their conversation also made Flame think she herself didn't understand this. A while later, in the self-study room, Flame arrived. The atmosphere here made her feel comfortable, exclaiming, "Finally, some peace and quiet. All day today, wherever I went, I heard whispers about that." The news of two students getting high-level general scepters has spread everywhere, but I still can't understand who he is. Why could he get the Terravone staff? I read the original novel 3 times before transmigrating here, but this character, Baek Yuseol, never appeared. People say no one can get Terravone, but he resonated with it so easily. No, it's more like he's intentionally showing off to me. Anyway, let's just forget about this. Thinking about it now is useless. Suddenly, someone called her name. "Flame, are you planning to self-study too?" Hearing someone call her, she immediately turned around, grinning widely, happily replying, "These kids are so strange. Do you think I'm a bookworm?" The blonde girl continued, "Not at all. You always say there's nothing to do, and then you sit and study." Flame replied awkwardly, "Hey now, not at all." A girl standing next to her asked curiously, "But Flame, why do you call us kids? We're the same age, aren't we?" Flame had to make up an excuse. "It's probably just a habit of mine. Where I used to live, people often saw me as an old lady, hey?" But the truth was, she knew very well she lived in a novel. So how could she act like a child? Another voice spoke up. "So are you planning to study alone today?" Looking back, she saw it was a cute girl with red hair. She suddenly thought, "Isn't this girl Jackie? Why is this girl's fashion sense so similar to mine?" Thinking so, she still replied cheerfully, No, there's a meeting soon, so I plan to attend. Anyway, I'll go first." "Okay, let's meet for a drink next time then." With that, Flame quickly turned and left, not forgetting to wave goodbye. "Bye-bye then." Just moments ago, she was so cheerful and welcoming. Now, she had returned to her cold demeanor. At this moment, she suddenly thought, "It's really hard for a mature person like me to go back to being a student." Lost in her nonsensical thoughts, she didn't pay attention to what was in front. Immediately after, she bumped her head hard into someone, then clutched her head and groaned, "Ouch, that hurts." Suddenly, the person she bumped into spoke, "Flame." Hearing this warm voice, she looked up in surprise. "Hey, Won Ryung, is that you?" The young man immediately asked, "Are you okay? What were you thinking walking so hastily?" Flame replied, I'm fine too." He looked at Flame for a moment, then asked again, "You don't look too well. Is something wrong?" Hearing these warm words of concern, Flame's eyes suddenly sparkled, thinking, "Is he worried about me?" Then she replied shyly, Not at all." Hearing this, the young man changed the subject. It's good that you're okay. Are you also going to self-study?" "Yes, and you're going to the training room exclusively for S-class." "Training every day, how can I be lazy?" "You're too dedicated." "Hey, you shouldn't say that." Is that so?" So, a little cat and dog argument just happened. Immediately after, the young man said nothing more, just looked at Flame affectionately, then smiled, waved his hand in front of her. Then I'll go first. See you later. He just left like that amidst Flame's bewilderment. She imagined some romance story, but that didn't happen. Flame was a bit disappointed, turned her face, and left still thinking, ugh, what a bland person. Suddenly she widened her eyes in astonishment. From behind a nearby door, the purple-haired friend was still peeking at her. Seeing this, Flame waved her hand. But that friend said nothing and just left. At this action, Flame was a bit bewildered, but then she thought, it's already late now is not the time to chase after her. A while later, she also reached the self-study room. Standing before the room door, she thought to herself, a special supplementary meeting. How could it be? As far as I remember in the original novel, Acel and Billon will attend this meeting. I'm curious to see how the heroine and the villainess of this novel will confront each other. Immediately after she opened the door and stepped in, just as she predicted all the important characters had appeared, she slowly scanned her surroundings. What caught her eye was the host, an A-class student. He seemed quite surprised by the presence of the members today. Flame quickly chose a seat high up to easily observe everything. As she sat down, she thought, this is a supplementary meeting for students who want to advance in rank. No wonder so many famous S-class students are participating. At this moment, what caught Flame's eye were Ma Yuseong and Baek Yuseol. Seeing the two of them talking quite happily, this rather surprised Flame. In this world, Ma Yuseong is actually interested in that Baek Yuseol who has no reputation at all. Flame thought, this isn't just a coincidence. And the fact that Baek Yuseol couldn't solve any question except those three hellishly difficult ones is also very unreasonable. Perhaps from the beginning, Baek Yuseol knew that if he could solve those questions, he would definitely be ranked SX. And if Baek Yuseol really knew the future, then his actions at that time were truly terrifying. On this side, Baek Yuseol was still sighing wearily, thinking, I wish someone would throw this name out of my sight. Ma Yuseong, on the other hand, smiled widely, looked at Yuseol and asked, oh, Yuseol, why are you sitting here? With your level, you basically don't need to attend this kind of class. Or do you have some unspeakable reason? The main character forced a smile and replied, haha, there's no reason at all. I just came to check it out because I felt like it. But actually, you're lying to yourself. Basically, I was forced to join this class. He looked wearily at the person in front of him, so incomprehensible. Why does he seem so attentive to me? At this moment, someone's voice spoke up. Now, order. Everyone, let's stop the chit-chat here. Today, we will discuss the issues from the recent ranking test. As you all know, this ranking test had a very high level of inquiry. It was so difficult that even the upperclassmen gave up and called them the three hellish questions. And I will slowly explain them more clearly to everyone. He said that, but inwardly, he was quite worried. He didn't understand why those famous people were also here. His purpose was only to enhance his external reputation by helping these foolish classmates. Suddenly an idea popped into Kyle's head. He looked towards Baek Yuseol, musing, no, perhaps this is my chance. I've heard Baek Yuseol was the one with the lowest score in the entrance ranking test, so I just need to let him know I'm much better than him, and that'll be enough. Thinking this, Kyle was extremely confident and continued, everyone please pay attention. Next, I will guide you all in solving the first question. Then Kyle spoke while presenting on the board. This question is actually a riddle. It's trying to lead everyone into a dead end. First, we have to do it like this. At this moment, the entire group below listened while diligently taking notes. Ma Yuseong also glanced towards Yuseol, seeing him lost in some thought. Immediately asked, what do you think? Do you think his viewpoint is accurate? Yuseol was stunned by this question, looked up to the side. He was grinning widely, awaiting an answer. Faced with this strange attitude, the main character's face turned pale, thinking, what the devil is he saying? He's asking me if I think that guy's viewpoint is accurate. I don't even understand what's being taught up there, let alone those three hellish questions. But anyway, honesty is a good virtue. Thinking this, Yuseol replied, no, I don't know either. As soon as the words were out, the nearby students eavesdropped, catching bits and pieces turned to look at each other. What did he say? Is it Beck you say ol? Did he say Kyle made a mistake? It seems these two intentionally said that to slander Useol, because everyone knew he had the lowest entrance score. At this moment, Kyle, who was diligently writing on the board, also accidentally heard those words and stopped. He was a bit annoyed, gritting his teeth suddenly. The main character noticed something was wrong here. He peeked left and then right, thought confusedly, huh, what the devil is this? Why is everyone staring at me? As for Kyle, he also stopped at this moment, didn't write anymore, but broke the chalk saying, "That's right, I made a mistake." The main character was extremely astonished. After hearing this, what the devil is happening? Jiwa. Immediately after, Kyle suddenly gave a smug smile and continued. So, Bayek Yuseo, why don't you come down here and help everyone solve this part? After hearing this, his hair stood on end, thought in alarm. Damn it! What the devil is he saying? Suddenly he saw Ma Yusong's gaze. A little surprised, he smiled radiantly with a trusting expression as if to say, "You can do it, go for it." At this point, he probably understood everything. It was this guy and those others who were intentionally playing this trick. Thinking this, he also slowly stepped down from the podium, walking and thinking, all right then. If you want to humiliate me, then you're mistaken. I'll make you widen your eyes in awe and submit. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on him. As soon as he reached the podium, he took something out from his person, then read through his solution once. It turned out what he took was a pair of bulbul glasses. He suddenly thought, 3 hellish questions. How could it be? Damn, it looks more like a word puzzle. Regarding the question, it's roughly like this. A mage casts a spell as follows. O Mother Earth, please shed tears. And from that, let the dust even double from the beginning. The question posed is, why is that so? The answer to this question is also very simple. It's just that the dust is crying. Why are they just a separated state? The main character raised his hand to hold his head, wondering, which damn idiot was idle enough to come up with this nonsensical question? To him, it was ridiculous. Yet here it was, a big difficult problem for them. But anyway, that Kyle guy didn't solve this problem like a normal math problem, but about making dust cry for dust. It's hard to say anything. His method was wrong, but he also got the right answer. It seems mostly due to luck. If he encountered another similar question, he definitely wouldn't pass. And from now on, this stage is mine. Thinking this, the main character turned to Kyle saying, I really can't show you how to solve this question, but I'll let you know where you're wrong. Kyle was startled after hearing this, exclaiming, What? The main character continued, The problem with the foundation of the earth, but what if it were water or wind? Do you think your method can solve them? If so, I'll use a different, more understandable method. But if you do that, you'll need many different ways to solve the same type of question. Therefore, you were just lucky to get the right answer. This also doesn't mean your answer is correct according to the intention of the person who posed this question. Kyle opened his mouth to explain something after hearing this, but only managed to stammer out the word, it. Then he had to accept the truth. You were right. Looking at Kyle's face now, the main character was a bit flustered. It seemed he had disappointed him a bit too much. He continued, Anyway, its solution will be like this. Kyle listened while diligently taking notes. The entire group of students below also focused on taking notes after listening. This greatly astonished Flame. She didn't understand why the others were all writing down what he said. Shouldn't Isel and Hong Beyond have joined the debate? Yet now both of them are busy analyzing his solution. Could this really be? How ridiculous? At this moment, outside, the sky had also grown dim. Inside, Ma Yusong raised his hand to bid Yuseol farewell. See you tomorrow. He gave a bright smile and then left. Yuseol also reluctantly raised his hand to wave back. Goodbye then. As Ma Yuseong's figure gradually disappeared, Yuseol then raised his hand to hold his face, thought dejectedly, "Damn it, if I keep getting involved with Ma Yuseong like this, I'm done for. I don't want tomorrow to come. I don't want to see him again in this lifetime." Thinking this, he slowly lowered his hand. Looking at his delicate hands, he suddenly thought, "It's probably because of the phone. Now I can't use it anymore. My limbs feel so frustrated. But I've made Ma Yusong notice me, damn it. I don't understand why I keep bumping into him. And it's strange before besides Flame, no other character used blink." Leisurely heading home, he saw Bionne still waiting for someone nearby. Her face looked a bit sad. At this moment, he suddenly thought, "What's wrong with her? She doesn't look too well, but it has nothing to do with me. Why bother? It's tiring." Then he just walked past Bionne. Suddenly she spoke Baek Yuseol. While he was still bewildered, wondering if he had misheard, she continued, "I have something to ask you." The main character was quite surprised by this. He couldn't believe someone as perfect as her would have something to ask him. He immediately replied, "Bionne, what's up?" She didn't beat around the bush, but got straight to the point. "Why didn't you explain your answer just now?" The main character was also stunned by this question after hearing it. He thought to himself, "It's not like I didn't explain right. And the truth is, I don't even know how the hell to explain it anymore. How do you explain a question with no answer? Is she misunderstanding something?" He awkwardly raised his hand to scratch his head and ear, replying, "Ah well, I don't have to explain it either." Bian immediately cut him off upon hearing this. "I understand you don't want to reveal it there, right?" This made him even more flustered, thinking, "No, that's not it." She continued, "Then I'll compensate you." The main character was astonished after hearing this, replying, "What are you talking about?" Bian added clearly, "I said I will compensate you properly." The main character was shocked to his core, his mouth agape as he exclaimed, "Ah." A while later, both of them snuck into Professor Lee's room. After fumbling around searching for a while, the two of them found their own test papers. He glanced over Bion's test paper once, then spoke, "I really don't understand why you'd pay me to solve 3 questions on the placement test." Bion replied, "I have my own reasons it's not convenient to say. Just say it." "Yes, yes," Miss On, the main character, replied. After looking at her test paper, he asked curiously, "But you only got those 3 questions wrong. As for me, I got all the other questions wrong, yet you're asking me for help. Don't you feel ashamed?" Bion replied calmly, "No. The only thing I feel ashamed about is that I still can't understand the answers to those questions. If you can answer this question for me, I'm willing to do anything." The main character was so surprised he was dumbfounded, thinking to himself, "She's a model student, isn't she?" Then he immediately asked, "But why are you asking me? You're a princess, you must have many friends to ask, right?" She stammered in reply, "That? Actually, among the 1141 first-year students, only 3 people answered these 3 hellish questions correctly, including you." The main character was so astonished he was agape, exclaiming, "What? What did you say?" She looked a bit ashamed and continued, "Those questions have no answers, yet Ma Yusong, Flame, and you could all solve them. That's what I feel most ashamed about." The main character couldn't keep his composure at this moment. His hands trembling, replied, "No, no, wait." Then he stood up abruptly, roaring with his mouth open, "Are these 3 questions? Trick questions? Originally no one could solve them. Why didn't you realize it when you were solving them?" Bion replied. After hearing, he tried to suppress his anger and sat down. A thought suddenly crossed his mind. "This is insane. And now I understand why I'm in S-class, and why Flame stopped me. I don't know the details of the game's setup in this world at all. I also didn't know about those trick questions. But perhaps Flame is different because she's read the entire novel. Even without knowing the game's plot, she must know the setup in the story. For example, those 3 trick questions. But because a minor character not in the original novel appeared, Flame had to acknowledge the existence of this Baek Yuseol. Damn it, no wonder she acted like that. Bion was confused by his reaction, asking, "What's wrong with you?" The main character replied indifferently, "It's nothing, don't worry. Don't forget you promised to help me with something if I explain the answer to you." Bion replied, "Mm-hmm, of course." The main character continued, "I only have one small request, that is to turn my scepter into a magic sword. The blacksmiths in your kingdom can do it right." After hearing this, Bion was quite surprised and replied, "But only low-level mercenaries use that kind of weapon. A future mage like you, why would you—" The main character didn't let her finish, cutting in, "Ah, it suits my taste. Come on, you can't say that's a flaw of yours." Then he looked expectantly at her and continued, "What do you think, can you do it?" On this side, she thought for a moment, then replied confidently, "Of course, that's too simple for me. The best answer of the day is here." The main character seemed very satisfied after hearing this. His cheeks suddenly flushed red, thinking, "Absolutely fantastic." Thinking this, he slowly explained, "So I'll tell you how to solve this question first." He pointed at the test paper and said clearly, "The way is to change your own perspective." She was quite bewildered after hearing this, saying, "Change perspective, how?" The main character also knew Biyun's weakness was that her magic was used very mechanically, and she was bogged down by it. Biyun only realized this when she became a second-year student, when she lost to Flame. "I don't think I can help her realize this now, but I hope I can guide her in the right direction. So what I need to do now is thinking this," he continued. "Do you understand what a nonsensical riddle is?" Faced with this question, Biyun was a bit surprised. Then she immediately replied, "A trick riddle, I think I've heard about it." The main character continued, "Then let me give an example question. What's between a knee and a knee?" Immediately after, she rested her chin on her hand, racked her brains, then replied, "It's the inner side of the knee, right?" The main character calmly continued, "You're wrong." Beyond still didn't understand and asked curiously, "Huh? Why is that, Ada?" He immediately emphasized the question once more. "I'm asking you what letter is between the word knee and the word knee. You understand what I mean now, right?" After hearing this, she realized she had been tricked and was extremely furious. As for Baek Yuseol, looking at her fuming expression, he felt a bit intimidated and said, "Hey, now come on, don't glare at me like that. Calm down a bit, just sit down and look at this question first. It also has its own formulas and tricks that you don't know yet. Therefore, what I mean is, before any problem, you need to solve it more creatively. But can you do this with just your own creativity?" Beyond suddenly became subdued after hearing this. She felt ashamed of herself and replied, "No, that's impossible." Only then could the main character breathe a sigh of relief, smiled, and continued, "Of course, although understanding many types of charms and their applications is very important, but for a mage, the most important thing must be to view this world through your perspective. Magic will transform unpredictably, even if they are just the smallest changes. But you only think about what you've seen and learned in books. Those are all impractical theories. Charms are not just about memorizing and casting them. You might be better than me at analysis and evaluation, but you lack the most important thing for a mage, which is creativity." After a long analysis, Baek Yuseol Byeon also became subdued. She pondered over his recent words, so much so that she couldn't deny it and had to suppress her emotions. Her hands suddenly trembled uncontrollably. She was falling into a state of utter despair. The main character looked at her serious expression at this moment, her face covered in sweat. He rubbed his head awkwardly, spoke, "Well then, you understand what I just said, right? Although it might sound a bit complicated and abstract." Biyun replied confidently, "Of course I understand." The main character forced a smile to gloss it over, thinking, "How interesting. I don't even freaking understand what I just said." He seriously continued, "I'm very happy that you can understand what I just said. So let's begin. I dare you, what does a man say to a horse when he puts it to bed?" After hearing, she was a bit bewildered. Immediately after, she placed her hand on her chin, musing, "What does a man say to a horse when he puts it to bed?" After thinking hard and not figuring it out, she replied sadly, "I don't know either." The main character immediately answered, "The answer is very simple. It's time for bed." And then he slowly posed a series of other questions. Why don't they work harder? I don't know either. It's because they always lie down when they work. So what happens when scissors, rock, and paper join a race together? I don't know either. My answer is at that time, the rock will roll while the scissors and paper can't move. Their shapes don't allow them to move. After this riddle, he turned to look at Beyond, not daring to say anything more. At this moment, her whole body was trembling uncontrollably. It seemed like she was tormenting herself. She was so angry she frowned, gritted her teeth, very uncomfortable. Faced with this attitude from her, the main character got goosebumps thinking, "Oh, what's this? She looks like she's going to go crazy any moment." The main character mustered all his courage, asked one more question. "So what will the clouds say to the sea?" Wrong. What will the clouds say to the sea when it rains?" She focused intently thinking, inwardly constantly reassuring herself, "Come on, I can do it." Calming down after a moment of internal struggle, she stammered in reply, "I'm falling into the sea." At this answer, the main character was quite surprised, exclaiming, "Oh, you answered correctly." Finally, she could answer one question and be acknowledged. Her heart was overflowing with this joy, it showed clearly on her face. Beyond gave a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with excitement, and it was this reaction from her that greatly surprised him. This was also the first time he had seen her smile, whether in the game or in real life now. The main character also shared her joy, smiling smugly, replying, "Just what I expected from a princess. Your creativity is on a completely different level." Seeing the somewhat excessive praise, her cheeks flushed red, she tried to restrain herself and continued, "All right, let's move on. Tell me the next question." The main character grinned mischievously and replied, "That's more like it, right? So my next question is." Just like that, the two of them chatted together until it was completely dark. Outside the school grounds, there were still a few students who hadn't left chatting animatedly with each other. At this moment, the main character was also heading home alone. He looked quite tired. His eyes had dark circles. He sighed dejectedly, thinking, "So stupid. I spent a whole 3 hours just using those silly trick riddles to challenge Beyond. I really don't expect her to remember what I said. I really don't expect her to remember what I said. But speaking of Beyond, the future will surely be a wonderful witch with an excellent mind. But her weakness is her overly rigid way of thinking. If I want to exploit that weakness of hers and taunt her, even though she's an antagonist, why do I feel so guilty? Anyway, but I need to quickly forge Terravone into a magic sword, so I need to do more. Well, it's not like me before I could do everything myself. But oh well, I should still quickly go find the necessary books for the upcoming class." A while later, he had arrived somewhere. He looked around, searching for something, then told himself, "No, it should be around here, right? I didn't misremember, did I?" Then his eyes suddenly lit up with joy, exclaiming, "Here are the shoes. This is the place." In front of him was a rather old and dilapidated house. Inside, everything was covered in dust and cobwebs. Stepping inside, looking at the scene before him, he thought, "Oh, this place seems very run down." Looking at the shopkeeper, he suddenly thought, "Oh, this place seems very run down. But I know one thing. Here this bookstore owner has a strange habit of pretending to sleep while secretly peeking at customers. If I remember correctly, this nameless bookstore contains Maella's notebook. He was the valedictorian of Stella Academy 10 years ago. If it were me before, I could just click on the screen and see it immediately. But in this world, I need books to learn. Moreover, what books you study also affects your promotion level. Initially, I bought books from famous bookstores, but then I discovered that good books are all hidden in shops without signs and have no reputation at all." Thinking this, he also went deeper into the store and started searching. As he walked, he secretly rejoiced, studying magic engineering class and having Maella's notes in hand. What could be more wonderful than that? No matter what, I'll get a perfect score. But that's just what I think. In reality, just wearing the monocle is enough for a good score. But it's also possible I'll discover some secret formula. Suddenly, something caught his eye, a green book tucked away in the corner of the cabinet. He immediately exclaimed, "This is what I'm looking for," as he reached out to grab it. At the same time, someone else's hand also reached out towards it. And then the two of them just stared at each other. He exclaimed in surprise, "Azel." She answered in bewilderment, "Huh? How do you know me?" "Of course you're so famous," the male lead replied. At this moment, she slowly realized. He continued, "Oh, I remember now. You're also in the supplementary group. Your name is Baek Yuseol, right?" The male lead was a bit disappointed after hearing this, thinking, "Sob, doesn't she remember meeting me before coming to the academy?" "All by some." She continued, "Oh, I really like that debate. It's just a bit regrettable that you couldn't explain the entire answer." At this moment, the male lead also suddenly remembered that Acel was also someone who couldn't solve those questions. She continued, "Anyway, it's very nice to meet you." Then coldly turned her face and left immediately. Faced with this attitude of hers, he was also somewhat surprised. But the important issue for him right now is, luckily, the book hasn't been taken yet. He reached out and took the book, then looked towards Acel again, thinking to himself, "Why is she here?" At this moment, she was continuing to choose books, but it seemed she was quite hesitant before daring to buy them. That was clearly shown when she paid attention to the price of each book she intended to buy. Looking at its price, she sighed dejectedly, then put it back in its original place. It was this action of hers that Baek Yuseol saw. He also implicitly understood the reason she was here. It was because of it. This bookstore usually sells old books, so the customers here are usually poor students like me. Someone from a declining family like Acel who has lost everything can only come here. Her father was probably killed by the dark mages. He suddenly felt she was quite pitiful, so sad. A princess like her has to buy old books, and on top of that, she has to look at their prices because she's afraid she doesn't have enough money. Moreover, Acel also had a sad ending in the original novel. She even died before Flame, who became the main character in this world. It can be said that the unluckiest character in the game is Acel. Thinking this, he also found some books he liked. They seemed quite thick and heavy. He placed them in front of the shop owner and said, "Let me pay, please." At the same time, Acel also came to the checkout counter. Looking at the pile of books he had chosen, Acel stood by, only able to wish. She seemed surprised to see him buying so many books. The shop owner was also surprised and replied, "All of this." The male lead just nodded slightly, then glanced towards Acel. On this side, she was a bit sad. He immediately asked, "What's wrong?" She replied indifferently, "You seem to be, you choose all good books, don't you?" The male lead was a bit flustered after hearing this, thinking, was she just about to curse me? Then immediately replied, "No, which one?" Acel continued, "All of that." "Why are you reading books about advanced sealing theory? Sealing theory is ancient magic. It requires items. Therefore, nowadays when alchemists and magic engineers have become advanced, that skill is rarely used by anyone anymore." He immediately replied, "Oh, this book, huh? It's true. It's not very useful." After hearing this, she even thought he was crazy for choosing them, then strangely said, "So you also know that, huh?" He replied calmly, "Of course that's why I took it." After hearing this, she was so surprised that her eyes widened, exclaiming, the male lead held the pile of books in his hands, then smiled slyly and said, "Because everyone thinks like you, that's why it's easier to get high scores in this class. I'm going first, bye-bye." As he walked away, he thought smugly, just as Acel said, not many people want to study the sealing theory class. But precisely because of that, I will spend less time and it will be even easier to get higher scores than other classes. But with these books, this semester will be simple. And then he just left like that amidst Acel's astonishment. She was confused. although she wanted to ask something more, but faced with her personal ego, she couldn't open her mouth. Scene changed to the next day at Stella Academy. At this moment, Acel was nervously walking in the hallway. This is the first lesson of void theory, also her first class since enrolling. At this moment, she suddenly thought, anyway, this subject is easy to get good grades in, so it's probably not too bad. After that, she also arrived at the classroom. At this moment, there were already quite a few students present. As soon as she found an empty seat, she accidentally overheard the conversation of the group of friends next to her. Hey, are you also studying void theory? But I think I'm in trouble. I registered because everyone said this class is easy to study. But it sounds like the rumor has spread far. All the smart kids are in this class. We're really done for this time. Aesel could only sigh after hearing this, thinking, I have to endure it, but I'll try my best in another class then. A while later, the lesson also ended. Everyone got up and left. Everyone seemed quite tired and complained to each other. Hey, my butt is so sore from sitting. I'm so hungry. What are we eating for lunch today? Let's go to the cafeteria and see, then decide. Azel was alone, walking dejectedly behind. She sighed sadly, thinking, damn it, what now? But it's hard for students in my class to get scholarships. At this moment, her stomach was also growling, rumbling. Holding the wallet in her hand, she hesitated. Or should I just go eat first? Let's see. This time I only have 60 meal tickets left, so today I'll eat bread. Asel's eyes suddenly widened in extreme surprise when she saw something. It turned out on the way to the cafeteria she accidentally passed by some room. She even recognized a somewhat familiar person, Beck Usil, who was also sitting there. Initially she was still wondering, what is he doing here? But when she saw the professor lecturing, she suddenly realized this was the class he had registered for. Strangely, this class has very few students, not only that they are all people with poor academic records. This professor is probably about to lose his job, she thought. But then she suddenly realized something. If she also registered for this class, then she could get high scores without spending much time, and also save energy to study other subjects and get a scholarship. Huh. But could this Beck Usiol know beforehand that this subject is easy? Oh, I can't believe it. Did he already plan which subject to study for a smooth ride? No, impossible. What the hell am I thinking? It's probably just a coincidence. Thinking this, she also left. Scene changed to the next morning. At this moment, the sun was already high up. In some corner, the students were still attentively listening to the lecture. The teacher said, surely all of you know what the root of magic is. The creation mage, the white-robed mage, spread magic throughout the world. Humans and other races learn to use magic. And the professor lecturing is Professor Leydin, who specializes in studying divine artifacts. He continued, that mage taught the elves natural magic, taught the dwarves material magic, and taught humans elemental magic. After that, he went to heaven, blah. And after that was a very abstract and difficult to understand lecture. The male lead listened to the lecture like a duck listening to thunder, thought to himself, damn it. How can I get through these 3 years like this? I could have skipped all this knowledge with just one button press in the game. But this lesson is actually quite important. Maybe it will tell me what the real ending is. And of course, it's all just my speculation. Suddenly, he realized the person sitting next to him looked somewhat familiar. Turning his head, he thought in surprise, Azel has always been in this class. I don't remember any main character registering for this class who has anything to do with me. At this moment, the professor was still enthusiastically lecturing. Humanity's curiosity doesn't just stop at elemental magic. Mages have traveled the world and secretly learned the magic of other races. Even so, they were still not satisfied. But they couldn't learn anything more either. The creation mage left behind 12 divine molfs and disappeared without a trace. Does anyone know about the 12 divine molfs? A clear voice spoke up. People say they are guardian gods who protect the balance of power on the continent, and it was none other than Acel speaking. She added, I also heard they are hidden all over the continent and carried that mission for 1,000 years. The teacher was quite surprised by this answer. He continued, "Oh, that's right. They have a special power that protects the continent. For example, the divine artifact representing summer, the sixth Molf is the crimson red, carrying a blazing red flame. And people say that flame will never go out. If you go to the bottom of the Aman Sea, you will still see the red fire. So anyone curious can try and see." The male lead thought he had misheard. After listening, shivered and thought to himself, "Damn it, is he joking? If a living creature intrudes into the territory of the sea, King Aman, they will die immediately." At the podium, the teacher was still enthusiastically continuing. "This is Blevian, a giant whirlpool that appeared in the middle of the ocean, frozen by the 12th Molf Winter Green. Therefore, each divine Molf has its own power, but magic will happen if they combine." A student below spoke up in confusion. "Teacher, what is that magic?" The teacher suddenly became quiet and replied, "Oh, no one knows that either. They fell asleep 1,000 years ago." At this moment, the male lead also felt the teacher was right. "At least I've met a few divine Molfs while playing the game, but I've only met 5 Molfs in limited time events. This is information I've gathered from other players. No gamer has encountered more divine artifacts than me. If I guess correctly, then the 12 divine Molfs have something to do with the real ending, because no one has been able to find the real ending in the past 10 years. The answer must lie in the unknown content. I could only meet 5 Molfs after risking my life many times. But if I want to witness the real ending, then so be it. Just start over from the beginning." At the same time, in another outdoor classroom at this moment, a huge flame was rushing towards the dummy in front. A stylish woman in a red dress stood in the middle and spoke, "Strength is not everything. No matter how strong the attack is, if it doesn't hit the enemy, it's useless." And this woman is Professor Hong Yeo, who teaches the fire class. The professor was walking, observing the students applying theory to practice. Suddenly, she sensed something was about to happen. Immediately after, an extremely powerful fiery energy rushed towards the dummy. And then, boom, a huge explosion occurred. And then, boom, 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 a huge explosion occurred. The professor looked at this source of power, seeming quite satisfied. But suddenly her eyes widened in extreme astonishment. Yet after that huge explosion, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed. The dummy's figure not only wasn't burnt to a crisp, but was still intact. Professor Hong Yeo looked at this scene, a bit disappointed, and exclaimed, "Damn it, Beyond." After hearing this, she trembled. Beyond sadly sat down on a chair to rest. Her eyes couldn't hide her disappointment, thinking to herself, "I've done something wrong to Mother again. Mother will surely be very disappointed." Suddenly someone called Princess. Looking up, it was a girl with cute red pigtails. Fomak. She smiled with her eyes crinkling and asked, "Are you still okay?" Then she slowly sat down next to Beyond and continued, "Don't be sad anymore. You look amazing, Your Highness." Beyond just replied indifferently, "What do you mean? If someone used magic like me, but it was much stronger, what use would it be? I can't even hit the target." The other girl replied, "But your magic is truly amazing. It's super cool, you know? To be honest, I've known you since I was a child." Hearing this, Beyond also recognized this girl. She's also a fire mage like me. It seems her name is Arshuang. It seems I've also heard about it somewhere. Rumor has it that a fire mage genius has appeared. Even so, it's nothing compared to my magic. Thinking this, Beyond exclaimed in admiration, "It's amazing that your accuracy is so high." The girl immediately replied shyly, "But if you practice more, how can I compare?" Beyond stood up abruptly and continued, "But it's only enough for the weak. Anyway, talking to you makes me feel much better. Goodbye." Finished speaking, Beyond also left immediately, leaving the girl with pigtails sitting there dumbfounded. Scene changed to some castle. It looks quite neat and tidy here. Beyond was also here, but she looked quite tired. At this moment, a voice spoke, "Your Highness." A strong woman stood solemnly behind, appearing. She continued, "Welcome back, Your Highness, and she is Baon's personal guard named Yai Taran. Your Highness, some warm tea and candy have been prepared." Baon replied, "Thank you." Yai Taran continued, "Regarding the task of adjusting the appearance of the wand you assigned me earlier, because that wand is very good, they said it's possible to create a high-level magic sword." Baon ate cake while listening, a bit doubtful, replied, "Is that so?" Yai Taran continued, "However, there are some questions." Baon was surprised. "Questions?" Yai Taran stammered in reply, "I heard rumors that it continuously drains mana from its owner." Hearing this, Baon was astonished. Then she stood up, abruptly, turned her face backwards, and said in alarm, "What, isn't that a dark artifact then?" Yatarine suddenly became quiet and continued, "Not really. It resonates with the energy of nature." And then Baon was extremely bewildered and confused, muttering, "Impossible. Something that drains the owner's mana can resonate with the power of nature. But then, why is that wand only medium level?" Yaitaran replied, "This is precisely why it's only at that level. What do you think about this, Your Highness? Its original ability is still to greatly enhance the user's mana and make it stronger, or even to a high level. But perhaps because it only absorbs and doesn't release, it was downgraded to medium level." Hearing this, Baon could no longer maintain her composure, stood up abruptly and shouted, "What high level? How can a student use it?" And Yaitaran herself was also quite surprised by this. On this side, Baon was still bewildered, clutching her head and continuing, "I know it doesn't resonate with everyone from the beginning, but I don't think people will use it even if they get it, unless they have a terrifying amount of mana or nothing at all. I don't understand this. I can be sure that a normal person can know that." Speaking for a long time made her throat dry. She sipped some hot tea to warm her voice, then added, "But anyway, he is definitely a special person." Scene changed to a few days later, when the new semester began. In some classroom, a teacher was enthusiastically lecturing, "For you students, offensive magic requires more understanding than any other type of magic." And our male lead is also sitting attentively listening to the lecture in this classroom. This bald professor is Professor Carleem, who teaches mana guidance, named Carleem. He continued, "That's why the mana guidance class is mandatory. From now on, in your one-on-one duels, you will learn guidance with a focus on launching and aiming accurately." Izel is also participating in this class. She seems quite focused on listening. At the same time, at the podium, the professor was still enthusiastically explaining, "Launching means shooting magic from the caster's body, and aiming accurately means using magic on a stationary target." Then we will discuss the trajectory formula as follows. From a distance of 760 meters in the North, Chiolsu is moving at a speed of 12.6 meters towards the south. So what is the appropriate trajectory and predicted distance that Yonghee needs to use water-based magic? The teacher said this, the atmosphere suddenly became silent. Below, two students were whispering to each other. One said, "Among the attributes, what if it's water?" The friend sitting next to him stopped him. "If you're not a water-type expert, then it's best not to answer this question." "But is he making it difficult for us?" The male lead seemed quite sleepy hearing this. He just yawned and yawned, thinking, "So boring. Why is it even more time-consuming than Korean class?" Suddenly, the bald professor spoke. "Student Usiol, please stand up and answer this question." The male lead replied dejectedly, "Yes, sir," but in his heart he cursed, "Damn it, it's me again." After a while of fumbling with the presentation, he also completed his solution, confidently turned his face and said, "Yes, I finished solving it." Looking at Usiol's presentation, the teacher was extremely surprised and exclaimed, "Excellent. You can actually solve it so easily. Is your initial attribute water?" He immediately waved his hand and replied, "No, no, sir." "Oh, that's great. Then let's move on to the next question." It was his expressions that made Isel see him in a different light. A while later, the class also ended. Everyone rushed out. A clear voice spoke, "Excuse me." Following the direction of the voice, he immediately turned his head and replied, "Yes, are you talking to me?" In front of him now was Azel. She continued, "That's right. I have a question I want to ask you." She suddenly thought, "I've been wondering something about Baek Yuseol while observing him. It's not related to his ranking, but that he's very smart even when compared to top-tier vanguards. He could solve that professor's problem so quickly and accurately. That's a truly hard-to-believe thing. The level of that question is at least university level. No, it must be professor level to be able to solve it. Even if Stella is where geniuses gather what is Yusun's identity, then at first I thought it wasn't, but now it's certain. He definitely has a course registration strategy." Thinking this, Izel continued, "I want to ask you, what's your next course?" Faced with this abrupt question, Yuseol was quite surprised. He kept his composure and replied, "Why are you asking, do you like me?" Izel was a bit annoyed and replied, "What the heck, old man? Do you think I'm a pervert so creepy?" Yusun's face turned purple with anger and he said, "I'm the one who finds it creepy. Isn't that right?" But at this moment, he suddenly thought, "I'm a grown-up. What the hell am I saying?" Then he touched his head and ears awkwardly said, "But why are you asking?" At this moment, Azel seriously replied, "I've researched the classes you're taking. It seems like those are classes where you can easily get high scores. I won't beat around the bush, I want to ask you directly. Where did you learn that strategy? Because this is quite important to me." The male lead thought to himself after hearing this, "Just now, I was wondering what she was going to ask, now I understand." Immediately after, he waved his hand, burst out laughing, and replied, "Huh, what do you mean?" "Those classes. It's probably just a coincidence here. If that's all, then I'm leaving." Finished speaking, he also turned his back and left. Faced with this indifferent attitude of his, Azel was quite surprised and exclaimed, "What?" Looking at that departing figure, she was unwilling to accept it and called out, "Hey you, wait." But he didn't bother to care anymore. She mustered all her courage, lowered herself, ran after him, and called, "Please wait a moment." The male lead also heard this and stopped. She panted heavily and said, "Please." Yuseol replied, "What is it? Why are you following me? Go learn that thing from someone else. There are many talented people here. Or just imitate me, you said you've already researched it." After hearing this, Acel stammered in reply, "But anyone who studies the divine artifact subject gets an A+, so it's not very important. But if I register for the same class as you, then it might negatively affect your grades." Saying this, her eyes suddenly became sad. She felt a bit guilty towards him, thinking, if he doesn't get the scholarship, it will be a disadvantage for him. But even in this situation, he's still worried about other people's grades. The male lead looked at her pitiful face, also suddenly thought, although he's a bit troublesome, the female lead is still the female lead. Suddenly she acted innocent and cute and said, "But anyway, can you suggest a class for me? A class where it's easy to get high scores? Please, I'm begging you." The male lead immediately replied, "Do you think those eyes can convince me?" She raised her hand to her cheek, caressing it. Acting bewildered, she continued, "Huh, strange, isn't it? Normally, when I look at my face, all worries will disappear." Looking at this overly confident expression made the male lead feel nauseous. Indifferently, said, "Are you serious?" Azel was so embarrassed at this moment that her cheeks flushed, red, smiled with her eyes crinkling, and replied, "Haha, I'm just kidding. I knew you would react like that. So I've prepared a few interesting things to compensate you." The male lead thought after hearing this, "Use me as compensation." He was shocked to the core, thinking to himself, "Is this for real? These kids like compensation so much, can they just open their mouths and get compensated?" Suddenly, Acel continued, "Do you know about the seventh magic?" After hearing this, the male lead jumped in surprise and replied, "Yes, I know. Isel added. Really? Not many people know you know. Because it's a deserted tower that has disappeared, and there are many barriers preventing people from getting close to where the tower once stood. But there she was enthusiastically recounting, suddenly stopped when she saw Yuseol's strange reaction. She spoke up and asked, Wait, what's wrong with you? Are you still okay? As for Yusin, he seemed to be struggling quite a bit, hearing this clutching his head and thinking, I'm going crazy. This is extremely important information. Because of this, Flame can increase her influence on the male lead. Moreover, Flame knows about that in the original plot. Acel also knows this. And Azel only tells this information to the male lead, not a minor character like me. Thinking this, he didn't want to hear it at all, waved his hand and replied, That sounds like a scary story, doesn't it? I don't want to hear it either, there's nothing interesting about it. Then he just left like that. Acel felt confused, hurriedly explained, It's not that scary. Are you afraid of ghosts at this age? Yuseol reluctantly replied, all right, I'll tell you. She twisted further, Damn it! You just pretended you wouldn't tell me. Why are you changing your mind so quickly now? Yeah, I like it like that. Yuseol replied. At this moment he also thought, moreover, the fact that Isel wants to give me something is enough. Thinking this, he spoke. Anyway, this has nothing to do with grades, but it's something extremely useful for you. Register for the Void Meditation Journey course as a cultural class. After hearing this, Isel replied in confusion. Meditation register for that subject as a cultural class. A Mulf god and meditation are prioritized. Do you like to practice? Idnaini O Mandan. Not really, the male lead replied, but he himself didn't know how to explain it. He suddenly had a quick thought, made up a reason. Oh, my master is also a bishop like you, and through meditation one can improve their magic level. Isel was surprised and exclaimed, Just with meditation, based on 10 years of experience playing games all night and all day, he slowly gave an explanation. In reality, this hasn't been discovered yet. But for bishops who wield large-scale destructive magic, meditation is extremely important for accurate casting based on formulas and equations. But above all, it's the mind that controls magic power. I haven't told anyone this either. But you're an exception because you're quite cute. She was bewildered, not knowing whether to believe what he was saying, and replied, You just said I was ugly. But it sounds like all girls like this. She smiled brightly and continued, Anyway, thank you. Although it's not a subject that helps me improve my grades, I will register for it. Yuseol replied, That's up to you. Well, you can do whatever you want. At this moment, having achieved her initial goal, she also happily left. Watching his departing figure, Yusun seemed quite worried. He also didn't know if what he had just done was right, but just sighed and thought, I've told him everything. It makes me a bit scared about how the future will change. But if I just leave her like that, Isel will face tragedy in this world again. If meditation can help her, then that will be a good thing. Thinking this, a thought suddenly crossed his mind. I myself am also a mage, aren't I? But why haven't I thought about practicing until now? Baek Yuseol in the game trained, very strictly awakened his physical condition, delayed magic power, and developed rapidly, if it were in the game. But now I can only do it directly. It seems quite late already. There are no segments or hunting quests, so I can't gain any more experience. But anyway, I have to thank Isel. A while later, Baek Yuseol had returned to the Stella Academy dormitory. All students are in the dormitory system. The dormitory system is a subpart of the game, where players can freely decorate their rooms. But for Baek Yuseol, this is his only home because his village was burned down. The dormitory is also divided based on rank. All rooms are the same size, but the number of people in each room is divided according to rank. And of course, the S-class people all occupy the highest floors. The male lead was alone in his room at this moment, thinking, I feel a bit lonely, but finally I can make use of it. He sighed to catch his breath. Then it's time to begin. Yushol sat in meditation, highly focused, thinking. Practicing stats is not the most important thing, because this is reality. I have to get used to using this body. In the game, Yuseol is a genius who can control sword aura by using the endless circulating mana inside and outside his body. No one paid attention to him, so no one knew. But Baek Yusul is a sword genius who has reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship. I have to follow that path again. My breath is what controls the flow of mana in my body. If I can slowly increase the amount of mana I take in with each breath, I will be able to get enough mana in just one go. Skills don't increase just by collecting EXP, but I have to continuously use skills to increase levels. This also means I have to practice. And just like that, he focused on cultivating for a long night. At this moment, the clock already showed 4 a.m. The new day was also dawning. Inside the room, Yusin was still cultivating. A sparkling golden light radiated from his entire body. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide, then raised both hands, feeling the refreshing aura flowing in his body. He thought in astonishment, this must be the feeling Yusin once experienced. As someone who accepted having mana leakage syndrome since childhood, although a bit faint, I can still feel it. At the same time, the system also displayed a notification. Mana leakage syndrome skill has leveled up. Blink skill has leveled up. The male lead looked at the status panel quite satisfied. Excellent. I've taken another step closer to the goal. I will find the real ending at all costs. Scene changed to someplace here. The air is quite fresh. A green meadow stretches endlessly. At this moment, someone mysterious appeared. It turned out this was a romantic space at Stella Academy. The girl Flame immersed herself in the atmosphere of this place, suddenly thought the meadow and the wind are both artificial, but the feeling here is so real. It's so pleasant. The Stella dormitory is a pocket space built on the school grounds. That allows people to freely manipulate the elements of the space as well as its properties. All sports events, other events, as well as dungeons, gates, and monster training all take place here for that reason. Back to reality at this moment, the students had also gathered here in full. Flame stood behind, looked around. She suddenly realized there were a total of 141 people. 50 people from A1 and A2 classes, the remaining 40 from S class. If it's like the novel, then there are 39 people from S class. I thought, including myself, it would be 40. But unexpectedly, there's one more person. That's right, where did Baek come from? In the novel, in the first year, there are only 1,140 people, and including me, it's 1,141. In other words, Yuseol is also in the original novel, but how? I will slowly figure things out. It's okay. I can do it. I'm the only one in this world who knows about this novel. The lesson will start soon. Suddenly, the students in front of Flame started chattering excitedly. One said, "Prince Jeremy, have you finished registering for the class?" The blond young man stood in the middle, perhaps. The character being mentioned seemed quite pleased and replied, "Of course. We also registered for the soft magic research class because we heard you also registered." He smiled with his eyes crinkling and continued, "Really? Then let's help each other." As for the girl, Flame, she looked at his figure and suddenly thought, that's Prince Jeremy in the novel. He's madly in love with Isel, but she rejected him. Since then, he seemed to have transformed into a different person and eventually became a villain. He looks gentle, but all his actions are calculated. I should observe carefully so as not to get involved with him. Suddenly, Prince Jeremy also saw his classmate Flame. He's truly like a friendly beauty queen, raised his hand to wave, then gave a bright smile. Flame also raised her hand to wave back, thinking to herself, but he's also really handsome. Now I understand why he has so many flatterers around him. But I have to admit, his faction is full of the most famous people in school. Thinking this, she also turned her face and left for another place. She was determined, I have to gather them together. Because from now on, this world will be her reality. She has to gradually prepare for the future. But this action seems to have caught the prince's eye. He smiled, thinking to himself, so much drama, how can it be? At this moment, the teacher's voice spoke, Everyone pay attention. We will begin basic training before starting today's lesson. I need to know your abilities to teach you correctly. I will be the one teaching directly if you don't like it. Don't say it out loud. Many times you already know. We professors have the right to deduct or add to your scores. So you must remember that you will be expelled if you don't reach the required score. And I will explain the training session right now. And next, I will explain the training session right now. I will use situations that occur in real dungeons as well as various traps and monsters to test all of you. You will get 4 points if you defeat a level 1 monster, 8 points if you defeat a level 2 monster, 20 points if you get the point staff. The top 5 students will receive a small reward and shopping privileges. Students with no points will have points deducted. If you are afraid of failure or afraid of going alone, then you can form groups. But remember, carefully, points will be divided equally among group members. If you can eliminate a student, then you will get that person's points. Finish speaking, he also immediately disappeared, only his voice echoing, "So that's it. Good luck to you all." Immediately after, the ground suddenly shook violently. The entire group of students screamed in panic. "What's wrong? The ground is shaking." At this moment, the ground suddenly cracked open. Something suddenly emerged from the ground. Flame was also quite surprised, her eyes wide open in shock. A giant tree appeared, and it seemed everything around had changed. The girl Flame seemed to have realized, this is the Jack and the Beanstalk map.